Meet Sukuru Sumaragi, just a high school kid whose one obsession burned hotter than anything else cooking. While his classmates showered him with praise for his food, he stayed a lone wolf. Only his online friends truly kept him company. Then one day, Ichino's, the school's untouchable sweetheart, finally clocked his talent. She admitted she was way too clumsy to help, but her heart lit up anyway. Watching him work was all she needed. Right when their teacher shut the door and left, Sukuru felt a sudden, gut-dropping chill crawl over him like a warning. In a heartbeat, everything fell apart. Chaos erupted, and blinding light swallowed the world. The whole school building got swallowed by some terrifying, unknown phenomenon. Sukuru and his classmates found themselves trapped in a giant stone chamber that swallowed the sound of their footsteps. He couldn't help but wonder if this was the legendary summoning that threw him into another world. Before they even had a chance to understand what just happened, armored soldiers closed in from every side. From a towering balcony, nobles and royals stared down at them with cold, meat-market contempt. A man strode forward, his voice roaring down the hall. "You're the heroes our ritual yanked you into this world." With panic roaring through the crowd, a knight stepped in and declared that their status would be verified right now. Their mission was simple: take down the demon kings, but first, every kingdom would have to fight for the right to choose their fate in a cutthroat auction with everything on the line. One by one, the students stepped up, hands trembling, and pressed their fingers onto that weird status plate. Ichino's went first, flashing that she's a holy maiden with an S rank, and the instant the truth hit, the bids exploded straight into the tens of millions. Then finally, Sukuru Sumaragi was next up for his appraisal. The grand hall froze in stunned silence when they flashed his status for everyone: job cook, rank G, like the world just stamped him at the bottom. Bidders erupted like poison. "You're useless. Move on. Hurry up and don't slow us down," they barked. A noble raged at the summons, screaming that they'd drag in some worthless hero while the world was already on the brink. Sukuru stood there, completely frozen, replaying one terrifying question: what on earth had he done to deserve this humiliation? An old man stopped him cold, said they wouldn't send him back, shoved a pathetic sword and a few coins into his hands, and then marched him toward a gate. He flat out said every kingdom refused to take a cook, none of them would have it. Each nose lunged for him, but the guards grabbed her and yanked her back. Sukuru forced a grin, swearing they'd meet again one day. With tears streaming down her face, she begged him to promise they'd meet again. Yeah, he said it, then spun around and strode straight toward that ominous portal, like he owned the danger. "See you then?" But the moment he stepped through the gate, a hand slammed into his back and shoved him hard. He watched the old man's face twist into a cruel sneer, and right there, boom, he realized he'd been betrayed. Sukuru did not fall into a city at all. He crashed into the pitch-dark, dread-filled forest right in the middle of it. He shoved himself back to his feet, and that shock instantly curdled into pure blazing rage. He got tricked, then left to fend for himself in that deadly ball forest. That old bastard, he thought. Then his status plate snapped into view, proving he was stuck at the absolute lowest pathetic level. His so-called skills couldn't land a hit, and his stats were so trash they might as well have been numbers from a joke. But survival hit first. He unleashed his detailed inspection skill, frantically scanning for anything he could eat. He hunted down berries and mushrooms and tucked them away with his unmatched skill. Right when hope flickered back, a monstrous rat lunged from the shadows and ambushed him. Paralyzing fear seized him, and everyone knew he stood no chance, so they dumped him here to die. His fear snapped into a raging need for revenge. He vowed to claw his way out of this forest alive and make every last one of them pay. Then a brand new shadow swallowed him whole, and this wasn't some ordinary animal. A colossal, saber-toothed beast bore into him, its claws flashing like sharpened daggers. Sukuru only managed to shriek as the predator surged forward, closing in fast. His blade was gone, so all he had left to fight with were the mushrooms sitting in his inventory. The beast swatted him away like he was nothing, and he slammed into the ground hard. As his life slipped away, he couldn't help but wonder, was this really the end, or just the last page? But the thirst for revenge and the justice he swore he'd deliver wouldn't let him quit. With everything on the line, he broke in his last offensive move, Ignite. He roared at the top of his lungs, pouring every last shred of will straight into the assault. The creature got swallowed whole by blazing magical fire, and it screamed in brutal agony. It thrashed like a beast, slamming and clawing to crush him and put out the burning rage inside him. Pinned under the beast, Sukuru went for the only move he could dismantle. With a lightning burst of dark energy, the monster got obliterated in an instant, down to nothing but bones and raw materials. A single message blasted into his vision: "You've leveled up." One after another until the notifications slammed into his senses and kept coming. He didn't just level up once he skyrocketed through dozens of ranks in the blink of an eye. Blood soaked his body, and he just stared shocked at what could not possibly be real. Agony tore through his body, and then he crumpled to the ground. He was still breathing, but it felt like the world was seconds away from shutting him off. Right as his eyes slid shut, one last thought ripped through him. He'd learned a brand new move, the water gun. A tiny orb of pure water popped into existence, dripped into his mouth, and yanked him back from the edge of dehydration. He activated another skill, healing food, and a juicy steak materialized from the monster's remains, sizzling with the promise of mending every wound. Cornered with no other option, he tore into the magical meat like it was his only lifeline. He devoured every bite like it was his last shot at survival, clawing his way forward to stay alive. An insane surge of raw power exploded through his battered body. His brutal injuries started sealing up on their own, then vanished piece by piece. In the blink of an eye, he was fully healed, like the pain never even happened. He stared at his hands and his body, stunned out of his mind because he actually made it back. With a brand new shot at life, he stared into the dark woods and his resolve turned into iron. He shoved his status screen up again. Sukuru Sumaragi, no longer stuck at level 1 as a measly cook. Now he was level 123, loaded with a whole bunch of brand new nasty power skills. The skeletal thing tossed aside its kill, convinced the human was a monster instead, just like that. The protagonist realized with a sinking heart that fighting a level 200 Sword Reaper meant certain doom. He had to level up, no excuses. Before he could even chase revenge again, he had to shove food down first. Right after he shoved the last bite down, he felt something totally new start to creep in fast. He suddenly realized that every bite of a monster gave him brand new powers. The stronger the creature he swallowed, the more power he stole, and the mightier he became. Armed with this new truth, he launched his hunt, locked in, ready to get strong enough to crush his enemies. Just as he started cooking, a pack of wolves crashed down on him. He blasted out a roaring wave of water, fully aware it had never outmatched the sheer weight of their numbers. Out of nowhere, a terrifying bigger threat burst from the shadows and lunged straight at them. A monstrous hellbear lunged out of nowhere and stood right in front of him. Level 210's beast locked eyes with him, and pure malice burned in its stare. The creature blasted a deafening howl into the night. The protagonist jerked backward at the last second as those colossal jaws clamped shut, snapping through empty air. The beast's attack slammed him back with brutal, unstoppable force. He snapped back fast, using wood magic to slam down a shadow binding and try to pin it in place. The magic didn't stand a chance. It snapped the moment the bear's brutal strength hit. A huge cloth ripped through the air as it wiped everything down. The beast's teeth snapped into place, sinking deep into his shoulder. Teeth clenched hard, he fought through searing agony as the creature hoisted him up like he weighed nothing. The bear's claws raked into his torso, pinning him there like a helpless insect. Rage crashed through his mind, and one burning need for revenge swallowed him whole. With the monster towering over him, he grit his teeth and swore his story wasn't ending right here. He clenched his teeth and went all in on his last resort, one final desperate gamble. No turning back. He unleashed his ultimate skill, and the entire world got swallowed by darkness. When he snapped awake, he'd already swallowed the creature's power. He methodically carved through the bear's remains, soaking up fresh skills and raw strength with every piece. His journey didn't slow down. It slammed him straight into the next deadly predator. Once again, he was backed into a corner, staring down his fate like it was a death sentence, caught as the only short-range fighter in the fight. Then it hit him. One chilling detail: the hellbear's dark magic he'd stolen was the perfect weapon for revenge. His victory celebration got yanked to a screeching halt when a wild system notification popped up because they'd just slapped a title on him, the pervert. The title's description ripped into him, laughing at how he was barely dressed. He stared down, and pure disbelief locked his face in place. That ridiculous title was now stamped onto him for good. 30 days tore him apart in that brutal forest, and he couldn't stop wondering had it really made him stronger. The wilderness swallowed him with lonely silence, and the weight of it pressed harder and harder on his chest. He stood completely alone. In this dead, quiet wasteland, he could only pray for the one thing he needed most: an ally. His senses snapped awake in an instant, and he instantly recognized that horrifying presence one he'd faced before. The Reaper tried to vanish in a teleport, but the shadow binding snapped shut around him, trapping him tight. The protagonist hurled savage taunts at the creature, then slammed it shut inside a cage of magical wood. God fired off his detect existence, then tracked the Reaper as it blinked into the air and vanished behind him, ready to strike with a surprise attack. He slammed his ignite spell into motion, a non-stop blaze that would turn into a nightmare if the enemy kept slipping away. The blast tore through the air and launched the Reaper flying like a rocket, but the creature wouldn't let up, teleporting right behind him for the final ruthless blow. Right at the very last second, he slammed the dismantle switch to life. The Reaper's robes crumbled to dust, then snapped back into a brand new, stronger coat around the protagonist like fate itself. The Hermit's coat slipped him into invisibility and shielded him from every spell. Another wind locked in tight, just like that. Then, without warning, a blinding force slammed into him and dropped him hard. He stared, stunned, as the attack ripped straight through his brand new magical defenses. The explosion blasted him backward, sending him flying like a missile. The skeletal warrior unmasked itself right in front of him, then cut straight to the point. Are you a warrior? The protagonist scans his massive skill list, and it screams just how fast he's grown. He bites down on a chunk of raw metal ore like it's food. With his fabricate power, he hammers out a brand new, brutal sword, finishing it in a flash and leaving his companion absolutely stunned. Suddenly, that jet-black blade starts talking straight into his head, like it's using his thought. It dares him. Are you a real warrior? And promises to hand over its power the second he proves he can back it up. Then that sentient weapon drops a wild question out of nowhere. Tell me, do you believe in God? The protagonist slams the idea down because in just 1 month, his faith gets completely obliterated. They dragged him into this world with zero say, then spit on him, cast him aside like trash. He's reliving those brutal nights of hunger, fighting tooth and nail to survive deadly beasts that never stop coming. He leans in and demands answers. Why would a god let humans get crushed by such a brutal fate? This god watches all of it and still shrugs off his servant's arrogance, turning a cold eye to humanity's decay. Rage burned through him as he swore he'd smash that god's face in. The sword just answers, cool as ice, that it has zero plans to stop him. And yeah, it straight up says his vengeful soul has the perfect shape for that power. It introduces itself as Kurokiri, the death sword, and orders him to just picture his deepest desire. The protagonist asks about nearby towns, but Kurokiri drops a grim bomb of bad news. They're planted right in the heart of the deadly Ball Forest, where danger closes in from every side. The sword snaps to it. He didn't stumble in by accident at all. He marched here on purpose to square off with the king of the forest. An enormous beast crashes into view. Level 300 Emperor Dragon. The hero goes numb with shock. This creature's power level is leagues past anything he's ever faced. The dragon immediately blasts out its emperor breath, unleashing a roaring wave of pure destruction. The explosion hits like a goddamn thunderclap, and it knocks him straight out cold. The girl he saved lets out a desperate spiritual scream, pleading for him to turn like she's trying to confirm he's still alive. She screams his name as the dragon's colossal jaws slam shut for the final blow. Right at the last second, the hero disappears out of nowhere, so the beast smashes its teeth into empty air, missing completely. He slammed his dark magic into gear and vanished through a teleport, escaping certain death. Crouched in the dragon's own shadow, he leans in and tells his partner it's time to smash back with a counterattack. He pops a recovery item, and his energy shoots back up in seconds. With distance finally widening, the dragon snaps out another devastating breath attack. The spirit shakes in fear because nobody ever has lived through a single encounter with this monster. She fires off a warning that the beast will track him to the ends of the earth, right as he slams an iron wall in place to stop its charge. The Dragon Emperor exhales and his breath shatters the magical barrier like it's nothing. Trapped, he realizes he can't break free and he's stuck too far away to land a single attack. He hatches a fresh scheme he'll use, remove presence to slip up on the unseen, then tear it apart piece by piece. He triggers the skill and vanishes in a flash, leaving the colossal dragon scrambling in total confusion. The beast viciously thrashes, snapping at the air, because it can't track its invisible enemy anywhere. The hero drops onto the dragon's back in perfect silence, lining up the finishing blow. The dragon's eye snaps wide open, and in that instant it knows he's there even with all his stealth. It yanks him off its back with brutal force, and he slams into the ground like a meteor. He slams up yet another wall, stunned that the creature keeps tracking him down. The spirit reveals that his brutal, overwhelming, murderous intent practically screams his location to everyone. This shocking twist sparks a wild, borderline insane plan in the protagonist's head, one radical leap that feels impossible until it isn't. He snaps to the truth this is his only shot, so he forces his murderous intent to morph into something like love. He charges forward and lays a soft hand on the gigantic beast. With one last battle cry, he steels himself and prepares to unleash his altered power. He slams Dismantle on and the Emperor Dragon drops instantly. Deep in the forest, he trips over this weird machine packed with glowing orbs, and his mind screams, "Is this some kind of trap?" Not seeing any danger pop up, he takes a risky shot, gambling that the next turn will hand him something truly powerful. A dark capsule shoots out, hits the ground, and instantly a notification blares. He's got the skill. Equivalent exchange. His companion scoffs, asking if one skill is a weak prize, and he fires back, "This isn't just any ability. It's a one-of-a-kind skill, way rarer than anything normal." The sword practically burns with demand, "Level up," and he nods, knowing they've got to team up, clash with life, and grow stronger together. He slices straight through the monster like it's nothing, and he tells his living blade, "I learned this from you," grateful to the bone. Battle, victory, repeat. Somehow it clicks in him like breathing. Through the brutal grind, he finally pries open fresh passive resistance against both physical strikes and magical attacks. His status lays it all bare. He's packing a brutal arsenal now, with fresh resistances in that mind-bending, equivalent exchange power he just got. His companion grabs him by the shoulders and demands he toss those tattered rags for real gear before they even step out of the forest. He uses the pelts from slain beasts to forge a fresh set of armor that hits like a nightmare. Now he's strapped in hellbear coat on, fur jacket high, and proudly kitted, and ready to tear into the journey ahead. He braces himself, eyes sharp, wondering who he'll meet first in this brand new world. Suddenly, chaos explodes below the cliff where he's standing. He doesn't flinch, not one bit, because he trusts the survival skills he sharpened against monsters. And I promise you, he'll muscle through every single challenge. Far off, a band of travelers is getting swallowed whole, and their defenses are collapsing in seconds. He clocks the attackers as nothing but common bandits, then steadies himself and reads the whole scene with his sword like it's already under control. As he drops down, his passive resistance kicks in by instinct, setting him up and sharpening him for the fight ahead. From the battered, besieged carriage, a woman spots him closing in and screams for help with everything she's got. One bandit misreads her screams as a personal call-out, totally clueless that danger is closing in from something far worse. The thieves pop champagne and celebrate way too early. Greed smothers their instincts as doom closes in. In the blink of an eye, he's right on top of them, his blade screaming through the air and dropping a bandit before anyone even gets a chance to react. The man crumples to the ground, his mind scrambling to make sense of the attacker's impossible speed. Inside the carriage, a noble woman cowers behind thick walls as the brutal chaos rips apart the world outside. The protagonist stands locked in, cold eyes glaring down the last brigands. The fight ends in a blink, then the world goes dead silent, with nothing left but the fallen bodies. His sword-wielding companion slices through the silence and asks him what it felt like to end a human life. He stares at his hands like they're holding the answer, completely drowned in thought. The protagonist can't shake it. Something feels deeply wrong because it was way too easy. One of the surviving guards creeps up with shaking caution, demanding to know exactly who he is. He whirls away in silence, determined to bolt and leave the whole scene behind. The guards can do nothing but stare, stunned, as their mysterious savior strides off into the distance. They're left staring at the aftermath, burning to know who that mystery man was, because he wiped out the bandits with terrifying precision. He finally bursts into the town of Alegria, a loud, buzzing settlement that signals the very edge of civilization. He pushes through the jam-packed streets, and it's like the chaos hits him straight in the face because the desolate forest is the exact opposite. Relief crashes over him. and at last he can start living like a normal person. His status screen blinks to life, and boom, his fresh start comes with a shocking new class cook. A beastman bursts into laughter as he retells how a hero suddenly showed up out of nowhere. The protagonist drops a huge chunk of cash on a meal, grinning like, "Yeah, this local food already looks way better than the weaponry." He strides through the market, grinning like nothing no blade at all can ever top the one he's carrying. A crew of beasts gawk in shock when they realize he's totally used to human comfort food, like rice and pasta. He's being sent to the settled general store. This huge place might finally have what he's hunting for. A bubbly cat girl bursts to the door, grinning and straight up confirming they've got rice. She teases him, asking if he's smitten, and he waves it off like it's nothing, insisting he's just not used to talking to people. Another staff member jabs at the collar at her throat, and boom, he exposes her as a slave. The moment hits the protagonist like a punch in the gut, and the slave keeps rattling off one kind of rice after another, showing him everything. He spots a familiar kind of rice, probably straight from his own world, then wastes no time and buys 10 sacks for a total of 60,000 gold. The store owner told him, "I'm coming to see you myself just to thank you for that massive order." With one smooth motion, the protagonist sweeps all 10 sacks of rice into his high-capacity item box, and the crowd watching can't believe what they just saw. Still stunned, Settle leans in and asks if he wants anything else from snacks to slaves the shop has on the shelves. Hearing slaves makes the protagonist freeze on the spot. Even though he's dead set against it at first, the owner leans in, talks him into it, and gets him to at least take one look. He finds out slaves in this world actually have legal rights and protections, and they're often forced into working as maid. But the owner won't let it go. He swears there's one more thing this guy has to see, and he pushes him straight toward a shut-off section. Behind a barred gate, criminal slaves rot in chains, stripped of every right and thrown into lethal work. Settle snaps his focus to one lone girl crumpled up in the back. He told her this was no ordinary case. She was a magician, set up for the murder of a noble's child just because she happened to be near the crime scene. The protagonist wrestles with her guilt, but the owner shrugs and says he's got no answers. Maybe she was just unlucky. Will reveals he's tied to her for life. He's known the girl since she was born, the daughter of a close friend of his. Her tale of getting falsely accused hits him like lightning, shaking loose the same dark grief he's been carrying since his own heartbreaking past. The owner pleads with him to buy Kana, but the protagonist hesitates, caught between desire and doubt. Settle's desperation spikes as she screams that if she isn't bought right now, they'll execute her for sure. Right when they're finally talking, a rude nobleman storms in out of nowhere and blurts that he's here to buy Kana. Nobleman Duckham strides up to the protagonist, eyes him like prey, and snipes that this magician's slave could be nothing less than a true, terrifying prophet. He shrugged off the man's taunts, calmed himself down, and then boom, he made the offer of a lifetime 100 million gold for the girl. That astronomical price drops like a bomb, leaving both the owner and the nobleman completely stunned, speechless. Duckham erupts in fury, but Settle stays ice calm and tells him the other customer already struck the deal. The protagonist snatches the enraged noble by the collar, ice-cold fury blazing in his eyes as he growls, "Back off." As the guards storm in, Duckham backs away with one last chilling threat. Then the protagonist is left staring at his own choice to jump into this mess. He stares at the girl he's saved, and his vow hardens. Anyone who dares cross him is going down. Settle settles in with a calm, hard-earned grin, knowing he picked the one person who wouldn't let him down. The protagonist promises the owner, straight up, that he'll repay every ounce of kindness he's been shown. Settle praised his old friend under his breath, sure that Kurakiri, the death sword, would stand between him and danger to protect his daughter. He and the girl stride into the darkness, and a fresh, deadly road opens up right in front of them. A girl chained in the doorway sits stone still, and the rain finally starts crashing down around her. Sukuru leans to his window, watching the rain hammer the world outside. With his money completely drained, he finally realizes his escape plan out of town has to change fast. He glances at the rescued girl, then chooses to let her sleep in peace until she's strong enough to talk. Once the time slips by, he jumps to his feet and starts whipping up a meal. While he cooks, he spots her standing in the doorway, staring at him like she's waiting for something. He slips her medicinal food and urges her to chow down as much as she wants. She takes that first bite like her whole world might explode if it doesn't taste right. To his horror, she chomps her food on the floor like a feral beast. He snaps at her to sit at the table right away and demands she eat the right way, utensils and all. The girl obeys instantly, sliding into the chair like she has no choice. Sakura stares at her, stunned by how effortlessly elegant and refined she makes even the simplest bite look. He quietly checks how she's doing. He prays that this healing meal will stitch up more than her wounds. He wants it to soothe her broken mind too. As she takes each bite, tears burst free and spill down her face. She crumbles into unstoppable sobs, screaming the name Dalsama over and over as grief crushes her. Sukuru instantly felt the healing food kick in, shattering her trauma from the inside out. He can't shake the memory of her once happy smile, and it haunts him. What kind of horror did she go through to end up this broken? Corrupt nobles' faces flash through his head, and he snarls at every last one of them. His face tightens, and ice-cold determination locks in. A sentient sword starts calling his name, and he lunges for it, clenching it tight as he realizes danger is on the way. From the window, he catches 5 attackers closing in, and it's so clumsy and so obvious that they might as well be shouting their intentions. In the dead dark alley, assassins get dropped one after another, and the night swallows them whole. The last attacker gets trapped in a corner as a monstrous bear looms in for the kill. The beast morphs into Sukuru in a flash, then locks eyes with the trembling man and glares him into silence. He rockets forward with blinding speed, and just like that, he disarms his opponent with effortless precision. Sukuru pressed a blade to the man's throat and demanded to know who sent him. The assassin swings back with everything he's got, but it's a total dead end. Sukuru reels back, and his eyes flare with pure, unstoppable power. He corners the man, firing question after question, demanding to know why they're still hunting him after tossing him aside. The assassin finally unveils the real target, while a red-haired slave trails right behind him. He blurts out that they knew nothing about Sukuru at all, just that someone paid them big to take the job. Sukuru snaps the interrogation shut in an instant, fully clocking the whole situation. He realizes he can already call out who's behind the attack. They've walked right into a situation so dangerous it'll bite back. It's turned into a brutal complication. He slips back into the room and catches the girl wide awake, staring right at him. As the sun claws over the horizon, she jolts upright in bed, like she can already feel the dawn of his revenge closing in. A system ping flashes in his instinct. Skill is gone. And in its place, a brand new power just got slotted in clean. He stares at his fresh clothes, already convinced they're perfect for Kana, because that poor guy still hasn't been able to bathe properly. He watches over the sleeping elf, and when her nightmares finally stop, pure relief floods his chest. He decides to whip up a meal for her, even though he has zero clue what she'd actually love. In a hush of memory, a young girl hears the news her father, a mighty mage, is gone. Yet before grief can sink in, she's pulled into a brand new family. Kana the kid beams with heartfelt gratitude as she tells Dalchasama how much she means to her. Dolph grins, practically glowing as she tells them she's thrilled to be working for such kind, truly benevolent people. But the memory clouds over as she can't stop asking how it all spiraled into disaster. That perfect, peaceful moment blows apart, everything turns into pure chaos and ruin. 1 second, Dolce was out there tending the mansion's grounds. Next, a panicked servant burst in yelling that there was an emergency, the Count's son had been attacked. She stumbled on young Lord Dolce-sama, bleeding out on the stone path. Rushing to his side, she begged him to stay awake because she could see he was still breathing. But her healing magic slid right off those brutal wounds. She couldn't even stop the blood from pouring out. She clutched him to her chest, whispering, "Please don't die." A new nobleman stormed onto the scene, and the sight hit him so hard he went into utter horror. He demanded answers, ripping into what really happened. And then Boomguard stormed in, grabbing Kana and accusing her of killing the young lord for cold hard cash. The accuser snapped that nobody had seen a thing, no witnesses to back up her claim that she'd been cleaning. Then he pulled out a letter said to be from Kana, crafted to bait the victim straight into a trap. Kana screamed, "That wasn't me! I'd never do something like that!" Now Kana's trapped, and a guard stomps in with a bowl of gruel, barking at her to eat no excuses. She glares at the vile slop in front of her, like it doesn't even deserve the name food. Another prisoner leans in and offers to grab the meal for her if she refuses it. The prisoner snaps a warning into her face, "Don't you dare skip a bite, or you'll die," because all of them are about to be hauled off and sold to the mines any minute. The elf girl, already trapped in slavery herself, can't stop asking what on earth did she do to deserve a fate like this. She sinks into crushing despair, convinced that none of this nightmare would have happened if Dolce-sama were still alive. While she's stuck in panic, a voice cuts in. He's claiming he's going to buy her, and he means it. A trembling hand shoots out, offering her a way to break free from the torment. It's hers now, her new master's claim, and it all belongs to the protagonist. He gently tells her to sit at the table and dig in like it's a real meal. She just stares at the food, frozen, like she can't even recall the last time her life tasted this real. The terror of defying her new master claws at her, forcing her to obey. With nerves rattling, she lifts the fork to her mouth and finally takes her first bite of the meal waiting in front of her. Feeling totally sure about his skills, the protagonist leans in and asks for her honest opinion. She goes silent for a beat, like she's weighing every word before the next one hits. Her hand trembles and the past comes roaring back to life. In Dolce-sama's last breaths, he leaned in and told her, "It's okay now." He begged her, "Please don't cry." Back in the present, one tiny tear slides down the elf girl's cheek, like it can't hold in what she's feeling. The protagonist stared at his shrinking wallet, realizing he could barely scrape together enough money just to keep their lodging. Later, he spots her sitting up in bed and slides her something to eat. She snaps upright right away, hungry for round 2 and already waiting for the next meal. He's completely stunned. She's already devoured 6 whole pots of food he prepared. Still, it makes him beam because she looks healthier, brighter, and full of life. When someone asks if the food is good, she lights up with a radiant, joy-packed smile. The protagonist can't help but realize he's way too soft-hearted, and it's going to get him hurt. Without a single warning, the girl's body suddenly buckles, and she slumps over in her seat. He panics for a second, then it hits him. She just fell asleep right in the middle of her bite. He can only stand there, totally stunned, as her weird behavior leaves him speechless. The protagonist lays out a lavish feast he crafted with his own hands. Kana dug into his breakfast with pure joy, his eyes widening like, "Did you seriously make this?" Right then, she praises his cooking, and he can't help but blush and accept it shyly. Overwhelmed with joy, she feels like every hardship she ever faced was wiped away. Then she fumbles and spills food all over herself. She refuses to let him do it and insists on washing her own clothes, but he waves it off and tells her not to stress. With one swift gesture, he fires off a skill and her clothes come out spotless in an instant. The stains disappear for good, and he slides a fresh set of clothes into her hands stitched by his own 2 hands. She asks where that kind of clothing comes from, but he just tells her to get dressed quietly, daydreaming about Japan. She's never even heard of Japan, and then she drops the wild fact about the hero getting summoned to battle the Demon Kings. He wastes no time formally introducing himself as Sukuru Sumaragi. She flashes a bright smile and introduces herself as Kana, then vows total loyalty to her new master. No hesitation. Sukuru asks for a tour of the city, and she lights up, agreeing with pure excitement. Kana guides you through the non-stop streets, pointing out every shop and landmark like they're chasing the next clue. She keeps the tour rolling, pointing out the tastiest eats, the wildest spots to unwind, and the best places to get lost in literature. He reveals he's been relying on a disguise skill, admits he's dead broke right now, and then asks what kind of business he should start. He throws out the wild idea, "Let's make cooking my path." Just as the conversation starts to heat up, 2 shadowy figures slam into their path and cut everything off. He instantly clocks them as the same guys who tailed him straight from the inn. Kana's gut doesn't read danger. She's sensing something else, like a clear warning to ditch this path and take a different route to get there. She says she only bumped into the shop owner for a second, then she settles in while the imprisonment keeps her locked down. From across the street, a shop employee spots them and bellows for the owner. Kana, grateful for their help, vowed to do whatever it takes and promised she'd do anything for them. The shopkeeper finally leans in and lays it all out. Opening a new restaurant is a nightmare with brutal regulations and ruthless competition. Sukuru slams the moment to a halt, snatches his chance to talk, and demands he taste the food first before she even entertains the idea of letting it go. He unveils a whole lineup of onigiri, each one packed with magic that temporarily supercharges your stats. He confidently declares the food will be a huge hit, with soldiers and adventurers lining up, and then pushes a partnership deal. Still stunned by the chance, settles double checks, and finally confirms Sukuru's name. Right then, 2 armed men closed in like they owned the place, And when they saw Tsurugi, their faces lit up with recognition from that earlier run-in. They step up and announce they're Count Abbas's vassals, then demand Tsurugi come with them. He swings back to Kana and offers her a choice: come with him and face whatever painful memories are waiting ahead. She nods with zero hesitation, and they're led straight to a massive grand estate. Inside, a maid glares at Kana like pure hatred is burning in her eyes, then snaps that Kana is the murderer. Tsurugi reaches for Kana's hand with quiet steadiness, silently backing her up like a promise. They're ushered into a parlor, and right there waiting are a nobleman and a young woman. The man snaps, "I'm Count Dengaro Abbas," then gestures to his daughter, Altalayas. The Count grabs Tsurugi's shoulders and pours out his gratitude for rescuing his daughter from the bandits who'd attacked her carriage. Altalayas finally admits it was him, then tells the full truth. She had her father's men hunt him down, and they were chasing that reward. The Count throws down a jaw-dropping 10 million gold and pairs it with a legendary family heirloom sword. Tsurugi's jaw drops at the generosity until he realizes the reward comes with a favor request attached. The Count's mood turns ice cold as he presses Tsurugi to swear. Did Kana really kill his son, Dolce? He straight up tells them he never once thought she did it because he was sure someone set her up and framed him. He pulled every string to swap her death sentence for slavery, then shoved the burden of her safety onto his own friend so she'd live. Kana's jaw drops as she finally uncovers the real truth hiding behind her own words. The Count stands there and says, straight to the room, that every single person believes she's innocent. Then he files his official request demanding Tsurugi track down the real killer of his son. A thick silence crashes down as the Count and Tsurugi size each other up, eyes locked. Guildmaster Mr. Sumaragi grins and tells everyone he's done all the prep. He's ready to sell their brand new product. He drops a bombshell, an ultra-lucrative contract worth 10,000 gold a month, and makes it clear that food that boosts your status is insanely rare. But the protagonist declares, straight to the point, that he doesn't need money anymore. Instead, he thrusts an ornate short sword into the man's hands. Sumaragi crumples to his knees, pleading for him to hunt down the killer who murdered his son. The protagonist gives a razor-cold confirmation of what the request really is. The deal snaps into place, 50,000 gold up front, and Kana's freedom will be handed over the moment they nail the real culprit. Altalayas is bursting with joy because the news says Kana can team up with her again. She spills her heart and admits she's been missing every second of their time together. Swallowing her loneliness, she listens as the protagonist steps up and officially accepts the terrifying mission. Sumaragi leans in and swears she believes in him. She's heard all about his crazy strength, straight from Commander Rotten. The protagonist smirks inside, thinking the man is painfully clueless. But he goes along anyway to keep the whole act alive. And then they sit down and realize the danger isn't gone, it's still lurking. He clocks that staying, puts him right at the mansion's doorstep, and it clicks perfectly with the fallen ally's final burning wish. Sumaragi begs him to save Kana, and he finally nods, agreeing to do it. The Guildmaster clocks that he started to secretly love saving people, and the protagonist shuts it down instantly. He's fully aware there are still people out there who refuse to doubt Kana's innocence. He clutches his resolve and goes hunting for the truth behind that incident. And she's determined to ditch her for good in this town. Right when they step into the grand estate, they get hit with the bombshell. Sumaragi is married, and he's with the princess right now. A maid spills the details of his perfect life, his beautiful wife, and that sharp, brilliant son who always seems one step ahead. As they push deeper into the corridor, a blond man whips around in pure shock at seeing them there. Seeing the protagonist, the man snaps with rage and demands to know what he's doing there. He slams the idea down. This mansion is not a home for lowborns like them. The man surges forward, consumed by blind rage. But a single brutal punch crashes into him, and he gets sent flying. Coughing up blood, the man just stares in shock because that attack did absolutely nothing to him. He rips into a scream that he's level 300 plus and untouchable, then barks at his guards to grab the intruder. Guards yank their weapons out in a flash, screaming that the protagonist had assaulted the head magician. Alti threw out a few shaky steps between them, trying to cool the whole situation down before it exploded. Then, out of nowhere, a commanding voice slices right through the tension. The commander, raging, demands to know why his men are leveling their blades at an honored guest. Injured magician Dakum grimaces and whines that the protagonist shattered his bones. Dakum spins a sad excuse, insisting he was just trying to shield Mr. Sumaragi from a brutal attack. He insists he bravely took the protagonist's hit head-on, catching the blow with his own fist. Rotten lets out a brutal scoff at the ridiculous lie. He knows one real strike from Sumaragi would have smashed his arm into nothing. He tells them how he watched the protagonist's terrifying power wipe out a whole bandit squad in the blink of an eye. The commander leans in and warns Dockham every single person who ever tried to challenge this man has ended in a brutal, grim fate. Snapping off all the subordinates' nonsense, Rotten barks an order, drag him straight to the infirmary. One guard under his breath curses the humiliation of being forced to stand watch beside a man like that. That crushing stress hits Kana like a truck, and she suddenly drops to the ground. The protagonist demanded they take her straight to her room so she could finally rest. Commander Rotten keeps begging for forgiveness after the chaos, but Sumaragi snaps at him because he's wasting apologies on a slave. The protagonist studies the commander's genuine heart, while Rotten clenches his teeth and swears he'll claw his honor back for good. Rotten leans in and says he's here to talk about what happened, and the protagonist immediately swears he'll cooperate completely. The moment they start digging into the Count's son's murder, the investigation explodes into motion. A maid stalks an empty corridor, pacing in panic like her heartbeat won't slow down. Kana, this young woman, snaps her head back in pure, stunned disbelief. Rage surges through the protagonist as he rereads that laughably incomplete report. He calls it totally worthless. Nothing but incompetence and corruption wearing a mask. It hits him like a punch. This whole thing reeks of a conspiracy pulled by someone with real clout. He pieced together the motives and realized someone was setting their sights on the Abbas family's status and their wealth. So tell me this, why did the guild pick Kana, just an apprentice, to take the blame as the scapegoat? He prays for one perfect skill, one that points straight at the culprit and shuts down this ridiculous mess for good. Elsewhere, a maid rushes to the princess and tells her Kana flat out refuses to eat. A sudden flashback rips open. One guard points at Kana and screams that she's guilty. Kana breaks down and confesses to her master that her own weakness is to blame because she truly believes it cost the boy his life. Her companion tells her straight up if Kana had been stronger with magic, she could have saved him. The protagonist grabs her hand and his expression hardens like a promise. He leans in and fires one question that could change everything. Do you want to become strong? Choking on tears, she swears she'll chase power no matter what it takes. He wastes no time. He shoves a feast of magical food into her hands and orders her to devour every last bite to get stronger. Mid-bite, the shock hits hard somehow. She's just unlocked wind magic in an instant. He notices that even after she chugged that insane amount of magical energy, she only walks away with 2 skills. He announces that her training and the investigation will roll forward at the very same time. A deadly vortex of dark energy erupts and spins from his outstretched hand. He starts the incantation, calling up a terrifying, powerful ghost. A bone-chilling lich destroyer crawls out of the shadows, and its unstoppable power hits you like a punch. The summoning rips away a huge chunk of his magic, leaving him dangerously low. The lich drops to its knees and demands a name because it's time to lock in their contract for real. The protagonist slaps a name on his brand new servant base. This monster's magic spills out in pure, overwhelming waves, and its master has a job ready for it. The undead servant, all razor-sharp brain and loyalty, already knows exactly what its master craves. Baze slips into the shadows, and the hunt kicks off on the very next beat. The summoning drains him so hard that his strength snaps and he crumples to the ground. The princess bursts into the room because she felt a deadly presence lurking right before her eyes. She rushes up to him, smiles and tells him, "Call me Ali." Ali tells them she rushed over to invite everyone for tea the moment she heard what's going on with Kana. She's stunned to find out Kana already chowed down, while the protagonist just stands there, quietly losing himself in the beauty of the garden. Ali tells them the garden is enchanted to stay in eternal spring, never once letting the magic fade. Kana hesitates to jump in, but the princess grabs her attention and practically orders her to take a seat. Ali can't help but smile as he recalls sharing tea with both Dolce and Kana right here. Everyone dives into the tea service all at once. The protagonist lifts the cup and drinks straight from it, like the moment just snapped into his hands. He praises the tea's rich flavor, then mutters under his breath that it'd be perfect if it weren't poison. His appraisal skill snaps into action, and he realizes a lethal poison was smeared along the edge of his cup. He steps in front of Al, eyes blazing, and demands to know who tried to kill him. She admits the official report was trash, missing the crucial testimonies that mattered. Ali spills that she overheard Dolce talking to a man moments before he got killed. She explodes with fury, snapping that the knights wouldn't even write down her testimony, insisting they couldn't possibly hear a thing through that door. He clocks her lie instantly, because those beastkin ears of hers would have caught every single word. His piercing stare dissects her every move, like he's reading her soul. The maids stare at the tense standoff, holding their breath, because they have no clue what's coming next. The second he calls, the lich base bursts out of the shadows like it's been waiting the whole time. He barks out a fresh command track down Princess Ali's personal maid. The whole crew scrambles to map out the incident's timeline, only to realize Dengaro had already slipped out with his subordinates. Right before the attack, Dolce was spotted talking to a guy in full armor, and then just as Kana tried to reach him, an ambush hit her out of nowhere. Right now, Kana explodes in a rage-filled scream, furious at her own weakness. An hour earlier, the protagonist had slammed a whole set of top-tier custom gear into her hands, built to shield her no matter what. He yanked her mind back to the promise she made. She'd do whatever it takes to get stronger. They finally hit their destination for the training Golf's infamous forest. The place everyone knows is pure danger. Without a single word, he scooped her up and sprinted straight for their goal. They burst into the perilous woods, and Kana's still reeling, barely able to shake off the brutal high-speed ride. She swings and attacks, but the forest creatures slip past every strike. She can't land a single hit. A colossal beast towers over her, and she freezes on the spot, terror crashing down so hard she feels completely overrun. He says, ice cold, that this level 200 beast is just a field mouse, and then he leans in, demanding to know if she's truly ready to claw her way to power. And with that, the very first test is finally over. The story snaps back to the hero locked in with a brutal, unstoppable foe, while Dolce lies hurt and bleeding on the ground. The girl was battered beyond belief, and her life slipped away like it was already leaving her. Kana could only stand there, frozen in pure horror, as the tragedy unfolded before her eyes. He tore through the battlefield with a relentless storm of flaming fire javelins. The spell hit dead on, and with one violent blast, it erased its target completely. But right then, Kana gets slammed with a tidal wave of level-up notifications out of nowhere. She can't believe it. She actually crushed a monster this terrifying. And right after, the protagonist drops the bombshell. He'd only left it with one single hit point. He leans in and tells her, "This was only a test. Our real training starts right now." Like he's calling in emergency support, summoning recovery items as he braces for the hit. She's seconds from taking. Her face twists with full-on bone-chilling dread. A blood-curdling scream rips through the forest as someone strains every last breath. Later, he hoists the unconscious Kana and drags her through the city streets. And when he finally pauses, he clocks her exhaustion from a whole day of sprinting before checking that her status has started to improve. Suddenly, a stranger blurts out his name and yanks his attention in an instant. It's the guard captain grilling him about Kana's condition when the protagonist tells him she's just knocked out, asleep after an insane training session in a dungeon nearby. The captain's thrilled to learn she's pushing herself harder than ever to crush the weakness she used to have. He insists on taking the protagonist straight to his favorite spot for a proper meal. The protagonist nods in agreement, and the captain leans in to warn him stay sharp, because wanderers from the slums don't come with good intentions. They chow down together at a cozy local tavern. The captain booms out loud about how much alcohol he can handle. His bravado instantly crumbles as he collapses, blaming himself for Dalt's death and choking on the regret that he wasn't there to protect her. The protagonist barrels in, cuts him off mid-sentence, and declares that he's dead wrong. The captain tells him the truth, sure. Lots of knights rode out with Dengaro, but a bunch of top-tier magic knights stayed behind, guarding the mansion. And that just makes the mystery hit harder. How on earth could Dolce be tricked into stepping out alone? Worried for his life, the captain steps in and offers to personally walk him back to the mansion. As they creep closer, a skeletal lich lurks in the dark, waiting for them. Then it booms that it's been expecting its master. A skeletal figure greeted them like it had been waiting all along for their arrival. He pushed the protagonist to witness it firsthand and judge for himself what he'd uncovered. The air around them warped, and from the skeleton's own memories, a whole virtual world snapped into existence. A chilling picture flashed on screen, And there it was, Dockham's wife. This space was a flawless mirror of Dockham's office, down to the tiniest detail. The entity finally grinned and told him it had the exact thing the hero had been hunting for. A drawer crept open by itself and out slid a whole stack of documents like it was hiding a secret. He snatched up a letter meant for Dockham, sent by a mystery man named Irrefusal. He shattered the seal, and his companion watched in nervous disbelief. The letter demanded they get rid of a cunning foxchild right there in return for a promise of a barony. His companion snapped to it. The letter had to mean Dolce, because the skeleton marveled at how effortlessly the truth could be ripped back from the wreck. Then the protagonist pulled out the real sealed letter from right where he kept it. She froze in disbelief, wondering if Dockham already knew the truth. Then the arrest hit before he could do a thing. He soothed her, explaining this was the classic setup a baron's bait meant to trap his subordinate. He leaned in and asked Kana if she'd heard of Count Irrefusal, because rumors said he was tied to the Abbas family. Hungry for something sharper, the protagonist chose to summon his operative. The shadow surged into existence, swearing total obedience to its master. Kana stared in pure shock, her mind scrambling to accept what was happening. He couldn't shake the terrifying thought that Ali was a target too, and that poison might already be creeping through his veins. He got ready to bolt, told Kana to eat up, and warned her not to open the door for a single soul. He pulled on his hermit coat, and with it, his presence vanished from the eyes of all lower-level people. When morning finally cracked open, he slipped out the window and vanished into the city streets like he was never there. He stared down at the knights training below, and every stumble showed they were clumsy, untrained, and far from discipline. Their practice felt more like a laid-back sports club than a real military drill. He caught a few of the men grumbling about how brutally strict their captain was. Another captain raved that the Beastmen were the finest, praising Goliath as a genius, and JD as pure inspiration. Then the gossip snapped to Captain Rotten because Dockham had just hauled him in and chewed him out. They whispered that after the last leader died, Dockham seized the throne and stacked the ranks with his own loyal followers. One of the knights snapped the other shut fast. Terrified, Dockham's servants were lurking and listening. Strolling the halls, he caught snippets of dull chatter about the Adventurers Guild. As he kept staking out Dockham, the truth hit him hard. Dockham's power ran deeper than he'd ever guessed. Then his eyes snapped onto a young fox boy. No mistake, he knew him as. Cloud snapped his gaze upward, and recognition hit him like a jolt. The boy gasped in shock and blurted the words, staring past the protagonist like he'd just seen something terrifying. A woman beamed at him like he belonged, and the boy blurted, "Who is this stranger?" She introduced herself as Alicia, Captain Rotten's wife, and said the boy in front of them was their son, Cloud. The boy introduced himself properly, and his mother explained that he shows up to lift their spirits after Dolce's death. The protagonist read the whole situation, and that tense, unsaid pressure filled the air like a storm about to break. Alicia then casually dropped the bombshell that she's Count Irrefusal's niece, and that instantly confirmed everything he'd been suspecting. A sharp knock snapped the air in a nearby room, and someone called him and his companions to breakfast. A voice from behind the door, polite but intense, demanded to know if he'd join them. The crew pulls up to a restaurant everybody knows, the Rotten family's favorite hideout, with their servant, Como, right there waiting. The skeletal servant leans in and asks if something's eating away at him, but the protagonist waves it off like it's nothing. The fox-eared woman tells her like it's gospel Lawton isn't just some family. They're an Abbas offshoot, and they've worn knighthood for generations. The protagonist clocks the whole political chessboard in his head, weighing Lawton or Cloud as the next heirs to the Dengaro family. While the others argue over the tangled family ties, the young warrior starts to panic at what it all means. A woman drags the boy into a teasing future marriage joke, and his face burns with embarrassment while the protagonist just watches in silence. The very next morning, the house's head himself swings them into a grand breakfast and meets them there, smiling like it's all about to get interesting. The protagonist wastes no time and asks where Kana is, only to find out she never even picked up when she was at her door. He orders the maid away, smugly thinking Kana's so feeble she's basically already a target, so he gives his approval. With thought transmission, he summons Sumaragi the maid and pours her a drink, then slips in non-toxic poison. Sumaragi snatches the tainted drink, clueless about what's lurking inside. Everyone worries sick that Kana shouldn't be left alone, But the protagonist shrugs off their fears and shuts them down fast. The head of the house snaps his head towards Shin and demands a straight-up update on the investigation still crawling forward. A noble woman steps up and declares she's handing the reinvestigation of the Dolce murder case over to Sumaragi. She lets out a huge breath of relief, grateful that the princess and the mansion are completely unharmed. The family patriarch declares, "I can't spill a single detail yet. This investigation is still running." The young boy just repeats the same thing, insisting he can't add a single word right now. Right then, the noble woman locks eyes with Mr. Sumaragi and speaks straight to him. She leans in and asks if she can help anything at all to dig into Dolce's murder. The young warrior swears that guarding the Abbas family is his entire reason to live, so he hammers his training day after day without stopping. He blurts out how much he worships Dolce and Alice. Then his fury erupts. He's dead set on revenge for their killer. Terrified that Altarius will be the next target, he steels himself to protect her, even if he feels utterly powerless. The protagonist nodded hard and told the boy to stay glued to Altarius, then keep watch over her with everything he had. The boy pledges his life to protect her, just like his father did before him. Meanwhile, Kana is knocked out cold, sleeping like a rock in her bed. She jolts awake the second a blast of water magic crashes over her. A loud, brand new ally shows up grinning, practically vibrating with excitement, begging to join the protagonist on their next move. The women huddled over Kana's new combat outfit, swearing it hits hard, but whispering that it might be a little too revealing. They yank Kano away while the protagonist locks in on his next move. The protagonist tells his old acquaintance he's heading out for a solo investigation, then hands Kana over to his trust like, take care of her. He and his skeletal servant stagger into a bleak, lifeless wasteland of pure dread. The servant spots 3 human bones and starts guessing they're the ones Dolce's killer left behind. The protagonist starts theorizing. This place might be a dumping ground, a way to bury the evidence from a crime that happened somewhere else. Without any other clues, the servant steps in and starts getting ready to get rid of the remains. Back in town, Kana gets fitted for a stunning new dress that looks like it was made just for her. The shop owner drops the bombshell he spent $1 million gold on that garment. Overwhelmed with shame, Kana practically beams as she calls the dress a priceless treasure and swears she'll save it only for the biggest moments. The protagonist stands on the street, watching in silence, like they're waiting for the exact moment everything explodes. Right then, a creepy stranger swoops in, grabs Kana, and completely off the rails mistakes her for some girl named Sumaragi. The assailant shoves in, and you can tell every single move is pure hostility. He locks eyes with the protagonist and declares him the real Sumaragi, then snaps, "Why are you hanging out with a slave?" He yanks his blade out and screams that their lives are forfeit, but the protagonist snaps, "Kana, get back." Kano explodes with rage, furious because the man has wrecked the precious gift her master trusted her with. The protagonist tenses up, ready for the worst, then freezes in shock when someone bursts in and stops the blow at the last second. A beastkin swordsman slashes in with blinding speed, intercepting the attack before it lands. The assassin freezes, shocked by how brutally savage his new opponents are. Up on the rooftops, the magic user hurls a volley of fiery javelins down at the man. Another ally unleashes tree magic, and roots burst up from the ground to snare the target in place. The defeated assassin is strapped up and utterly helpless, while the group grills them, demanding to know why they got chosen as the target. A skeletal servant bursts in, and it flat out says the strike was designed to halt their investigation and shut Kana up for good. Clutching the letter in his hands, the protagonist declares the last shred of evidence is locked in and snaps that it's time to race back to the mansion. Kana stares on, jaw set, and pure resolve hardens her face. With every clue locked in, the protagonist slams the decision down and heads back to the Abbas family's residence. Inside the house, the Lord erupts in fury and disbelief when he hears they've finally uncovered the real culprit. As the protagonist party storms in, a guard tries to block their way, but they shove right through him like it's nothing. The hero fires off a taunt at the man he already beat, and rage snaps across his face like a mask. Princess Sumaragi steps up before the nobles, her face set in heavy sorrow as she speaks. The Lord, the princess, and every captain from the 3 night squads are all there standing together. With everyone gathered, the protagonist finally steps up ready to spill the truth he's uncovered. The Lord swears he'll listen starved for answers, while the princess promises him, with absolute confidence. He won't regret a single second of it. The protagonist snaps an order to the guards, lock the room down, and nobody gets to step in or interfere. Then he calls forth a nightmare skeletal lich, and its dark energy crashes through the chamber like a storm. The knights snap into guard instantly, their faces frozen in shock at the sudden burst of power. The Lord screams in alarm the moment he sees that monstrous creature towering over them. The captain shouted for everyone to back off because he could already feel how deadly this was. The lich is right there, and this icy aura of death hits like a punch so strong it rattles even the most seasoned warriors. The skeletal thing slithers in and introduces itself as Base, the loyal subordinate, ready to obey its master's every command. It lifts its hand and readies a forbidden ritual, like it's about to cross the line for good. With a jolt of spiritual power, the lich unleashes a spirit summon, and Dulce's ghostly form crawls into existence. The crowd goes dead silent, staring in shock, and wondering could this really be the soul of that dead boy. The princess clocks the apparition's ghostly shimmer and realizes the living can't touch it. To prove she wasn't being tricked, she fired off a question to the spirit, one only the real Dolce could possibly answer. The spirit snaps back with the right answer, proves it's really them, and leaves the boy's father utterly stunned. Dolce's spirit chokes back tears, begging his father and sister to forgive him for vanishing on them so soon. He spills out his regret and heartbreak, wishing so badly that he'd managed to save them and stop the tragedy. The protagonist slams the emotional reunion to a stop, then asks the grieving lord, "Can I carry on?" He whips around to Dolce's spirit and fires the one question that could break everything. Did Kana kill him? The spirit snapped back instantly. No delay, no doubt she wasn't. He finally admits Kana tried to save him right before 3 ruthless strangers ambushed him. The knight captain starts to protest, but the Lord shuts him down in an instant, demanding the whole story from start to finish. The protagonist straight up confirms those 3 attackers came straight from the slums. The Lord snaps with fury, saying the men bolted from the town ages ago. With a cool, steady calm, the protagonist shuts down his claim in one clean burst. He snaps the truth into the light. Those 3 murderers are undead puppets now, puppeted by his will, and the whole room erupts in shock. The knights clock one of them as the key witness who spilled everything against Kana. Rage explodes in the Lord as he lunges forward, ready to tear down his son's killers in one brutal strike. The protagonist steps in and stops him cold, shouting that the men are already dead, so swinging at them is pure futility. Even with rage still burning in his veins, the Lord finally nods and sets out to hunt down the mastermind. The protagonist nods like, "Yep, there are more of them," then gears up to rip the mask off the real culprit. He demands answers from Dolce's spirit, who pulled him outside the city walls that day. Then he barks an order at his 3 undead servants. "Tell me who handed you those orders." He barks the final command and points straight at the person who's to blame. 4 ghostly undead arms shoot up together, claws aimed at one helpless target. They all stab their fingers straight at one of the knight captains, and boom, there he is, exposed as the mastermind. Captain Gibbons, the man on trial, locks eyes and stares back in raw, unshakable terror. The protagonist demands answers. Who ordered Dolce's assassination? He leans in and orders the captured men to point straight at the mastermind if they're sitting there in the room. Every finger points at Jabone, the one guard everyone's accusing, but the moment it's said, he snaps back, instantly insisting it's a setup. He's begging hard, swearing his innocence like it's the only truth that matters, and insisting it's all just a brutal misunderstanding. Before he even gets a word out, a second guy explodes forward and smashes G-Ban to the ground with a blindside hit. The attacker slams Giban's head into the floor, crushing his chance to get away. With Giban pinned to the ground, he blurts that he wasn't acting on his own, he was just following orders. A blade shoots straight through his chest, and in an instant, his life cuts out for good. The noble Docum grabs the attacker and demands answers because the guy insists he just pushed G-Ban down. He swears his only mistake was the shot landing off target as he tried to catch the murderer they'd pinned it on. Docum rages whipped the truth out of the air. G-Ban was already under his control, sealed tight with a spell. The protagonist snorts at his stupidity and basically tells him, "You could have just stopped the spell, you didn't have to make this harder." He then calls forth a skeletal creature and tells it that G-Ban's soul can finally be put on trial because a soul can't lie. He coolly tips his hat to Docum, thanking him for stepping in and helping him out. The protagonist hands the final call to the Count. Either he interrogates the spirit or he lets the whole thing die down. Their gazes lock up, and the air turns sharp with a tense standoff. The Count demands Jaiban's soul who issued the order, and the spirit answers loud and clear, naming its master Dasham. When the truth came out, Dakam grabbed the maid Hannah and admitted he did it only because he was promised a shot at a higher position. He leans in, snarling that he'll murder his hostage the second anyone dares to take another step. The protagonist stays completely calm, staring down the absurdity of it all. Really, one maid's life is nothing but a shield. The princess pleads for him to stop, but Dakam shrugs it off. Sacrificing a servant is a small price for a noble's ambition. Hannah tries to calm her mistress down, but the princess shuts her down cold. She refuses to leave her behind. Dakam yanks the maid up by force, snarling at her to shut her mouth. Then he whips up a fresh lie saying Hannah threatened him and that she's the real criminal. The beastly warriors unleash thunderous roars to their lord, demanding the traitor be cut down. Goliath, one of the guards, rockets forward, hacking Dakam's arm clean off and yanking Hannah to safety in a violent burst of blood. Goliath clamps his hands on his own brutal wound, and the moment he feels it, he knows his end is already locked in. Dakim roars at the maid to get him help, then slams the threat down, promising brutal consequences if she dares to refuse. The Beastkin Lord looms over the fallen noble, blade poised to strike. He finally cracks and admits he killed Jaban because the fear of getting blamed for the assassination was eating him alive. Dakim is in panic mode, yelling, "That's a lie," while insisting the protagonist is the one pulling all the strings. But the protagonist shuts the whole thing down. Why bother with a trial when nobody in their right mind can trust a word the traitor says? One of the hero's paper planes drifts down like a leaf, lands right by the princess's feet, and she notices it's covered in writing. It's a letter to Dakim, packed with praise for wiping out the assassins. The letter dangled a vow to crown him a baron, and it backed that claim with ironclad proof of the conspiracy. The Beastkin Lord snaps to it. This letter has to be from Count Arafuzel. Cornered by the evidence, Dakim finally breaks and admits he's guilty. The protagonist lays the whole truth on the table. Count Fussel is the mastermind, and he ordered Dakim to kill Dolce. The idea was simple. If this blew up, they'd throw the blame on G-Ban, while the rest of the plan quietly got handed to someone else. In this second phase, they're setting up a robbery just to knock out another noble and make sure a Fussel family member steps right into their place. The crew starts debating which Fuso bloodline member could actually pull off a scheme like this. The letter finally drops the last conspirator because it's addressed straight to the Count's beloved niece, Alicia. The warrior Rotten reels in shock when it clicks. Alicia Cloud is the mastermind, pulling the strings. Cloud, a young boy, rejects the life he's supposed to inherit as a count, and instead swears he'll become a knight, fighting to protect his family no matter what. Right when the grim scene hits, a man named Rotten suddenly steps in and demands loud and urgent what the heck is going on. Then Alicia Cloud's mother freezes in horror as reality crashes in, and she finally realizes the nightmare is truly happening. Her husband tore through the doors, muscles aching and bloodshot from the strain. A young noblewoman stands at a distance, eyes locked on the chaos as it erupts around her. Altaris, the summoned hero, and his party watch the standoff tighten to the breaking point. In the garden, Cloud shouts for his father, breaking the quiet. That night, Rotten's icy stare snapped onto his own wife and child. Alicia's jaw drops in horror when she realizes her husband is in the middle of it, and he looks her dead in the eye and grimly admits it's all true. He declares that, tonight of all nights, as an Abbas family ritual, he'll execute her right on the spot. But right before the blade can strike, young Cloud bravely catches the hit with a sharp parry. The boy stands no chance. His father crashes him with one brutal strike, dropping him in an instant. Alicia clutches her bleeding son in her arms, staring at the chaos and wondering if her husband has finally snapped. Rotten barks for her to step aside, but Cloud shoots back. This knight's duty is to guard the weak, and nobody's pushing her out of the way. The princess snaps at Rotten to end this chaos right now. Rage and chaos finally crash through him, and the knight's resolve shatters. He lets his sword fall to the ground and blurts an apology to his battered son. Dropping to his knees, he sets his weapon down on the ground. He steps up and bows to his lord, throwing himself into a deep apology for failing him. He finally breaks down and admits he couldn't force himself to kill his wife. To make amends, he grabs the blade and turns it on himself in a gut-punching, jaw-dropping sacrifice. He swears that if he fails, he'll pay the price with his life. Cloud howls in raw anguish as his father crumples to the ground before his eyes. The boy cradled his dying father in his arms as he yelled at the guards, begging them to find a healer right now. Alterus and his companion locked eyes in grim, wordless silence. Kana rockets ahead, totally brushing off the warning that her skills aren't enough. She unleashes her massive magical energy, summoning a roaring incantation about to break the world. A brilliant flash explodes as she unleashes an extra heal spell. That high-level magic unleashes a blinding burst of light, and the crowd just freezes in shock. They can only stare, jaws on the floor, as that insane power show unfolds before their eyes. The healing works. Rotten goes limp, but his life is saved. Cloud's eyes spill with relief as his mother wraps him in a comforting embrace. The Lord finally unveils the real mastermind, Alicia's uncle, the one who plotted Dolce's assassination. Alicia finally cracks and admits she was dragged into all of this after she found out Dolce was dead. Enraged, the Lord orders his general to ready the armies for war. Then Dolce himself strides forward and steps right in, blocking the command. The Lord's blown away, staring at the boy like, "Why would you stop me?" Dolce throws herself against the war, begging for it to stop, refusing to let anyone suffer for her. He snaps his eyes to Alterus, knowing this is the only shot to save Kana, and finally drag the real villain into the light. The young boy wheels around and gives Kana a heartfelt thank you that hits straight to the heart. He leans in and tells the tearful healer that her efforts literally saved a life, so she has to smile. The party finally catches a short, bittersweet breath, peace for just a moment before the chaos returns. Dolce beams, saying he's just grateful he finally got the chance to give a real proper goodbye. His last plea is simple: God, keep guarding the town and every single person in it. A noble stares into the wreckage. Messiah is gone. Kana is finally free, and the Abbas's grip is slipping fast. First, by the window, the protagonist shuts the door on doubt and reaffirms his mission was never something he could choose. He steals his resolve to take down the old man and the God who rules this world. Meanwhile, Kana hears the words land like a verdict. She's free now, and their paths are about to split for good. She grabs her freedom and lets out a quiet, unstoppable breath. The head of the house hands her a brand new set of clothes like a warm welcome back right before her return. Kana takes the enhanced garments right in her hands, still calling the protagonist her master, like it's carved into her heart. The nobleman steps forward and offers a heartfelt, formal thanks because his help in their battle was priceless. The protagonist drops the bombshell Dockham and his crew are captured, and the Abbas family's power gets crushed. The nobleman vows to expose the abuse's wicked acts to the royal family, even as he admits a simple formal complaint by itself won't be enough. The protagonist pushes him to dig up even more proof, insisting that vicious rumors about their enemy are already flying around and could crack them open. A fresh deal snaps into place, and this time the hero's next charge comes with a massive 30 million gold reward for staying in the fight. The nobleman nods in relief, finally safe from having to throw his own men into a head-on war. The protagonist slams a stack of documents on the table proof, so airtight it crushes every last lie about Eric Fusel's crimes. With the evidence locked in and the handwriting verified, he signs off claiming the request is officially done. The nobleman promises that Kana's room is still perfectly kept, like it's waiting for her. So if she ever wants to come back, the door's ready. Kana gets a warm, triumphant welcome back from Arteris. After they offer her refreshments, they slide the paperwork in front of her and tell her she has to sign to make her official return to the family. Arteris grabs her and hauls her into the guest room right where her father is waiting. But as Kana stands right in front of them, she hesitates right on the edge of making her move. She boldly says she wants to stay by her master's side and then begs to be his slave again. Then she leans in and tells him the truth. She can read that crushing loneliness in his eyes, the exact same pain she's worn herself through. Kana throws her case right at him, begging him to let her tag along on his journey. He grabs her attention and tells her straight up, his road is deadly, his plans are terrifying, but she doesn't budge, not even a bit. She vows her entire life to his cause, daring the whole world and even God to stand in her way as she refuses to leave his side. Touched by her grit, Artur steps in to defend Kana's decision. While her father stares in disbelief at her unbelievable loyalty, Arteris revels in her choice, pulling someone into a raw, heartfelt embrace. The protagonist realizes this move won't solve anything. It just kicks off a brand new disaster. Right then, a man barges in, dragging a shackled beastkin behind him, and he blurts out that she's been picked to replace Kana. The protagonist's jaw drops because this girl just tried to assassinate him, like not even long ago. The nobleman stays ice calm and calmly admits he knows exactly what's going on. He tells her the truth. She wasn't the villain. She was dragged into it, forced to comply because Dockham kidnapped her sister and held her hostage. For her punishment, they handed her straight over to the exact man she tried to kill. Arteris turns to Kana and fires off the question, then adds that the girl had no real choice in the matter. While Kana wrestles with her feelings, the protagonist shuts her down cold, and then coldly hints the would-be murderer deserves an even harsher punishment. Kana immediately snaps back, aching for the girl's helpless terror and pinning the whole tragedy on their shared enemy. Arteris drops a bold threat: if he won't take the girl, she'll be sold to someone else, and he pushes through it with a heavy sense of responsibility. The protagonist finally caves in, letting the assassin tell him on one brutal condition: she'll follow every order he gives with zero arguments. She nods in silence and quietly accepts his terms. The girl vows her entire life to obey his every command. With his new companions beside him, the whole crew finally comes together. The nobleman blurts out the law in a panic, but the protagonist shoots back: no worries, it's just for show. He orders them to get ready to leave because the job isn't done yet, and there's still plenty left to finish. A status window flashes Hannah's profile, level 28, the Brawl King herself. Dengaro leans in and begs Sumaragi for a favor right after his soldier's future is thrown into the spotlight. He rips open the truth their morale is wrecked and begs Sumaragi to train them. Meanwhile, a young boy races to his father's locked door, clutching a meal and begging, please come back. He sits in silence, but the world stays silent back, no answer at all. Before his courage can even catch up, the boy swings the door open. He's completely frozen when he spots Sumaragi and his whole party right in front of him. The protagonist calls out for the guy everyone knows as Rotten, and the boy blurts that his father is right upstairs. Sumaragi wasted 0 seconds. She kicked the door so hard it tore right off its hinges. He storms up to Rotten and tells him straight Dengaro wants him to train the knight. Sumaragi yanks the disgraced captain close, and fury surges through him as he refuses to step down. The boy bursts in, shouting his father's name like he's chasing a fire out of the house. He tries to calm the whole mess down, telling his father it's okay before things explode. The princess pleads for her master, then looks right at Rotten and demands he finally put his trust in him. From the depths, the soldiers' desperate screams echoed off the walls, pleading with their captain to come back. Without his leadership, everything falls apart, like they're wandering in total darkness with no way out. But Rotten's past failures crush him. He feels too broken, too unworthy to even step up and lead. His companion leans in, begging Sumaragi to jump in and act before it's too late. The protagonist seethes in his head, screaming that he has to deal with this instead of getting to breathe when he was already forced to fight for his life. He throws down an offer Rotten can learn his skills, then pass them on to everyone else. Sumaragi snaps, training starts now, and they sprint off toward the Ball Forest. We snap straight to the kingdom of Luke Sandale's capital, where everything's about to go down. A blood-curdling scream of pain tears through the air like a lightning strike. There, a beaten hero lies getting bandaged up, and someone tells him in no uncertain terms, in this condition, he'll never lay the demon lord to rest. He lashes out, sick to death of getting shoved into fights in a world that was never meant for him. The healer, Suzunon, feels utterly helpless, convinced her only role is to patch up everyone's wounds. She shoots a quick look at Sukuru again out there, training alone like it's the only thing keeping him standing. Her friend keeps poking fun at the crush she swears she has on that boy, but she snaps back. He's nothing more than a childhood friend. She tells her friend, with his S-rank luck, he's going to be okay, no doubt. She nods with a soft calm, and that's the moment she agrees. Deep in the woods, Sumaragi leans in and tells Hannah not to worry. Those soldiers will be all right, thanks to the recovery items he stashed for them. Hannah begs to join the training, but he shuts her down cold, telling her their next mission is to rescue her sister. They pull up at Fusel's mansion, the very place where she's being held captive. Sumaragi clenches his resolve and declares it without hesitation. Every hostage's life comes first. Hannah turns to her master and pours out her deepest gratitude, like it's the only thing that matters. With their combined skills, the whole party turns invisible to the naked eye, slipping past every patrol like they don't even exist. They slip into the garage mansion without a single guard so much as noticing them. Inside, it's even more tasteless than they feared, blazing with a golden statue of the owner, like that's supposed to impress. A skeletal familiar rattles into view and blurts out that Sonya, the target, is locked away in an underground cell. The undead beast brags that not a single wall can block its path. They finally slam into the cell only to find the skeleton holding up its empty hands, no keys anywhere. Sumaragi cranks up his insane strength to smash the lock, while Hannah barrels toward her wounded sister. He nods and declares they've got to get her out right now. Hannah lunges into the room and screams her sister's name like it's the last lifeline she's got. She cradles her sibling's limp body in her arms as Sumaragi and the others stand there staring. He spirals through his brutal past, where joy gets ripped away and smashed right in front of him. In the world he got summoned to, they didn't just take his life, they ripped away even his right to live. Ayumi's memories hit like a brutal wave tugging at him with the sharp pain of everything he'd lost. He remembers that chilling, sinister laugh coming from a cloaked figure looming over a lifeless body. Meanwhile, in a calm, dignified world, a goddess looks up and praises the beautiful day, giving full credit to Sumaragi Tsukurusen. She soaks in the peace of her realm like it's made just for her. But this thing is barely holding together, and she's got crushing regrets because she knows it was forged at a brutal cost. Staring into a divine mirror, she locks onto a nightmare vision that turns her blood cold. The moment it hits, the image explodes into a violent shower of fragments. Her attendant snaps that the world is on the edge of collapse, and the goddess weighs 0 times. She orders the space-time wall fixed at once. She says it's been happening for ages. People from Japan keep getting snatched away in a phenomenon called summoning. Every single event shatters the walls between worlds, and now they're teetering on the edge of total collapse. The god from the other world is corrupt to the core, and he's yanking in over 100 people in one giant, summoning one move that's about to shatter the barrier for good. She decides to step in, zeroing in on one summoned figure with barely any power to sway the situation. To keep him alive, she hands him a special power tied to his love for cooking and cranks his luck up to max. She also grants her blessing, one that'll stay locked away until his body finally has the strength to survive its overwhelming power. The man she picks, Sukuru, steps up and screams that he's been waiting his whole life for this chance to punish the rotten god. The goddess swears she'll help him, so anyone who dares to sacrifice her world will get hit with ruthless retribution. Back in the present, a young beast girl rushes over and hands Sukuru a towel soaked with fresh water. She stays right there with him, watching over his every breath as he finally rests. He stays by the fire, silent and watchful, while she sleeps in the chair right beside him. A sudden memory yanks him back. He sees himself standing at his old home again. He remembers Ayumu's note. She's got a whole exam day feast planned, and it's buzzing in his head. He bursts into the kitchen, music blasting through the air, and total confusion hits him like a punch. Then everything snaps to a gut-punching phone call, one that tells him the worst has happened in a terrible accident. He stumbles into the funeral, and there, staring back at him, are the photos of his family, wiped out in a deadly head-on crash. His world crumbled to dust, and in the wreckage he was left utterly alone. Phone in hand, he snaps back to reality, but those brutal memories still slam into him, one after another. A woman tells him Sonya is awake, and he gives a quiet, knowing nod. The young beast girl bursts in and calls him master like it's the only word that matters. She pours out deep, shaking gratitude because he saved her and finally got her back to her sister. With his special power, he whips up a quick, easy meal just to help her recover. Still reeling, she blurts out thanks to him again and again. He scoops up a spoonful of steaming food and pushes it right into her hand. Her eyes sparkle as she blurts out that it's absolutely delicious. Watching her hits him like a punch, Ayumu, and that cold, shattered body he saw with his own eyes. He blurts out Sonya's name out of nowhere, and it snaps her attention instantly. He leans in and asks if she's ever heard of a country called Japan, but the name sounds totally unfamiliar to her. She admits that she and her sister have only ever known servitude, no memories at all of anything before that. Sukuru clamps his mouth shut, and the questions just die in his throat. Her sister begs him to eat, but he brushes her off and won't touch a bite. He snaps to his feet and storms down the stairs. Kanan trails right behind him, firing off questions about his bizarre behavior ever since he met Sonya. He blurts out that he swore Sonya felt familiar, then snaps it off as nothing but a misunderstanding. He snaps his attention back and says they've got to race to the Bull Forest to meet Ratten-sama. Kanan tells him, When you're ready, don't lie, give me the truth. He nods once and a grim look hardens across his face. In the wild forest of Bohr, a Beastman commander hammers his troops into a frenzy, ready to crush a nightmare-level threat. He bellows an order that demands they fight to the death. No retreat, no excuses. The protagonist and his companion lock eyes, watching the knights charge into their foe. They step up and swear they'll fight tooth and nail to protect the honor of their hound. With a perfectly timed strike, the knights smash their foes, and pure power surges through them. A massive, colossal bird slams into the ground, and the whole forest goes silent in an instant. With a level 140 beast already crushed, the victorious crew leans in and declares, "There's nothing left to fear now." They throw a full-on celebratory feast to honor their massive, hard-earned victory. As they head back to the city, they charge straight toward the towering gates of the estate. Beastman Commander Lawton steps forward and declares, "My mission is done." He tells them he can't go into his family once wronged the Lord, but the crazy part is the mission's goal is already done. The protagonist spots Lawton's explosive growth and raw power, and the commander, still humble, quickly brushes off the compliment. Then the housemaster shows up fast, shouting that it's far too dangerous to let a warrior of that level run loose. He gives Lawton a brand new mission, leading a freshly formed squad of town guards. The housemaster steps in to crush the beasts that menace the territory so the people can stay safe. He sees Lawton's raw, massive potential and says it'd be a total tragedy to lose a knight this promising. With the emotion hitting like a wave, Lawton accepts the role on the spot, swearing his loyalty without hesitation. A young page chokes back tears and pours out his gratitude, then swears right there that he'll serve with his life on the line. Inside the mansion, they dig into the hard-won meal like they just stole victory itself. That wolf girl's shockingly fast recovery is praised as a sweet bonus from the powerful food. The protagonist finally unveils his master move, a damning letter proving the last count's corruption has already crawled up to the king. Then he steps in and offers the two wolf girls a spot right beside him, promising safety, food, and a life they can finally breathe easy in. The younger girl clings on, begging with all her heart, "Don't leave me behind." He welcomes them into his party, and her joy floods over her like a tidal wave. Before they head out, they flip through a catalog, picking out the exact gear the new members need. As they rush through their last-minute preparations, the head of the house comes straight toward them. The noble family watches them leave, then sends them off with a permanent invitation like, "Come back anytime." The daughter presses a family dagger into the protagonist's hands, proof of their bond, and begs him to stay alive and safe. She pulls the wolf girl into a tight embrace, and they share a raw, heartfelt moment that hits straight in the chest. She tells them, "You'll always be like sisters to me," and then straight up calls this place their home. The protagonist and his crew just stand there, watching the tears hit as the farewell shatters the room. After they finally said their goodbyes, the whole party pivots and heads out, leaving everything behind. The protagonist locks his eyes forward, and once the journey kicks off, his resolve hardens like steel. His companion blurted, stunned, "Wait, so we're going back to the great forest of Bohr?" He tells them their fresh allies aren't ready to face what's coming yet, and that they've got to train hard before the real battles hit. He slams the brakes on their fun, his stern voice cutting through the excitement to remind them just how serious this journey is. Out of nowhere, a dark shadow slices across the sky, and a giant bird roars into view above them. The whole party snaps their heads up in an instant, and every nerve screams danger. The creature's silhouette towers over them, a looming doom etched into the cloud. His companion snaps with worry, saying a creature like that has no business lingering this close to civilization. Then they realize it isn't just one bird at all. It's a whole squadron of those legendary great birds, ripping through the sky in perfect formation. Their flight path shoots straight ahead with no detours, locking onto the city of Algeria. The whole group cranes their necks to the sky as a massive bird swoops in something that's supposed to stay hidden deep inside the wolf great forest. A colossal bird-like nightmare is barreling straight toward Arglia City. One of his companions snaps that she'll destroy it, then fires a blazing javelin spell straight at it. Her wind magic detonates into a blazing vortex, swallowing the monster whole in a single heartbeat. Kanan darts in and catches the mage mid-fall, and the twins stare at him like they've just witnessed a legend. Out of nowhere, one of the girls yells at him to duck and look behind him right now. A monstrous beast bursts out of the shadows and hurtles forward, its claws snapping toward the two airborne figures. A skeletal figure slams into the attack out of nowhere, then snarls a warning. An entire horde of monsters is closing in fast. Kanan snaps to the truth. No matter how strong his allies are, the city will still bleed bodies unless they strike right now. He decides right here and right now is when he stops that horde. Then he snaps orders for everyone to get behind him. The powerful mage snaps her focus to the swarm charging closer. With one sharp incantation, she unleashes a raging flame storm that scorches everything to add. The twin sisters stare in shock, completely blown away by how brutally destructive her magic is. I can't help but wonder if they pushed themselves the way they did. Could they unlock strength like that too? The protagonist slams their fist down and declares, "Training starts now." He barks an order at Hannah wipe out that level 230 silver elephant. He'll unleash Darkbind to crush the beast's power, then leave her to land the final killer blow. Hannah fires off multiple enhancement skills, her whole body blazing with power as she rockets forward. She slams in a devastating blow, but the power she amplified rebounds like a nightmare, and it tears her apart from within. As she crumples to the ground, a burst of level-up notifications explodes in the air, while her sister's scream of pure horror tears through everything. He tells her, plain as day, her body can't handle power that huge, then whips up a meal using his ultimate cooking skill, like it's the only cure. He snaps a warning to fading Hannah, eat it right now or she's going to die. Her sister shoves the food into her mouth with sheer desperation, pleading, please just swallow. Brilliant light blasts out from Hannah's body as the wounds snap shut, one by one. Her arm snaps back to perfect in seconds, and she rushes to apologize for the trouble she caused. The mage can't help but praise their master, saying they're nothing but kind to Hannah. He tells her that Hannah can't heal unlike the mage, who he had to drill harder than anyone. His companion hurls stamina-boosting rice balls to everyone, gearing the whole crew up for the next fight. The protagonist spots Sonya's mark, a level 2020, Sulfuria, and fires a warning, telling her, don't you dare get reckless. Sonya nods once, then bolts straight into battle against the plant-like monster. He watches their flawless battle rhythm, and the second Sonya's sister gets hit, he sees Sonya getting slammed too. Their bond is dead wrong, and he vows to hunt down what's behind it. A savage beast rockets forward and rips into Sonya, slashing her arm wide open. A brutal flashback slams into the protagonist's head, and he chokes out her name through tears and pain. In the blink of an eye, he vanishes behind her and snatches the hit meant for her. Sonya whips around in shock and blurts, "Master, are you okay?" He leans in and reassures her, saying the wound's nothing serious and he can't stop being relieved that she's safe. He tells her to keep fighting like a fresh spark, just ignited her spirit again. After the fight tears down, the whole party sinks into a huge, well-earned curry feast, like they're finally exhaling. The protagonist lays out an enormous feast, side dishes piled high, and dessert waiting at the end, then tells his companions, dig in. Kanan gets handed a wildly oversized special portion, like the universe is pranking her. He spots her dodging those raw onions, and then his instincts scream that someone's hiding close by. That night, the Lich crawls into his mind through telepathy, noting he's been rattled ever since the moment he met Sonya. The ancient being laughs in his face, taunting him that he's hooked on the girl, and now he's trapped in torment. The protagonist snaps back in pure fury, clenching his blade tighter as the accusation hits. His skeletal companion swears it was just a joke, then snaps at him to quit spiraling and calm down. Suddenly, the protagonist surges his power flare and spots a brand new, crushing presence in the air. A sudden surge of energy blasts through the room, jolting everyone awake from their sleep. Outside, two massive figures step in and stare them down. Then one points and calls them members of the human tribe. The ethereal woman points at them and blasts them with the accusation that they're the ones who tore up the forest. A mysterious elf suddenly steps out, demanding to know who wrecked her forest, just as a skeletal figure snaps at its master, Hun. The moment she felt it, she knew this power was absolutely enormous, bursting out of her like a storm. His lich, Baze, slips back into the shadows, dodging a head-on showdown. The elf calls the forest a sacred sanctuary and then demands he pay for what he did. She lunges in, shouting that he'll pay with his life. He barely scrapes by, parrying a sudden ferocious stride. She gapes, he just stops her, strike cold, all while he grills her for launching an unprovoked attack. She brushes off his pleas, calls his sins crushingly heavy, and insists his defensive power is absurdly immense for a human. He swears he was only protecting himself, but she laughs it off, calling it a pathetic human stun. The elf blasts out another surge of energy and snarls that he could have died without feeling a thing. As she swoops through the sky, whipping up wind magic, he realizes he'll never reach her, and then he snaps his appraisal skill on, desperate for the opening. The results are absolutely wild. She's Antia, an ancient elf at level 415, and she's the founder of her entire race. He finally gets it. She's the very progenitor of the elves, and her level is over 100 higher than his. She blows him off, no answers, no mercy, just die, and whips up two massive tornadoes out of thin air. The protagonist is caught in the middle of raging vortexes with nowhere to run. He fights with everything he's got just to survive the storm's crushing power. His companions huddle in the tree line, helplessly yelling his name as panic rips through the air. They already know stepping in would just weigh him down, so all they can do is hold their breath, wait, and pin every hope on him. A voice inside his head snaps at him to quit hiding behind defense and start studying his opponent up close. He gets slammed to the ground, groaning that this world keeps bullying him, forcing him to fold to everyone else's will. Fueled by pure defiance, he swears he won't die until he wipes them all out. Then he triggers both his dark magic and his wood magic. Antio hangs back from above, impressed because somehow he's still holding his ground. He fights his way through the storm, and she shuts him down, calling his effort futile. His strike connects, then it backfires, splattering her with nothing but his own blood. In the blink of an eye, he spawns dozens of clones that crash in from every angle, surrounding her in a full-on swarm. The clones come down on her in perfect sync, like a synchronized swarm smashing in all at once. She sneers at the sneaky illusions, then braces herself to annihilate every last one in a single brutal sweep. Stunned, she freezes as his voice slips in and tells her she should have won if she'd just been able to take them all down. With one brutal final swing, he shuts the whole fight down. His wild instinct is still on fire, and he looms over the fallen elf founder. She realizes he still hasn't landed the final blow, and she blurts out her secret. Her second life skill is what keeps her from dying. She's blunt. If he hits again, she's done for, and she can't stand it. Why is he still hesitating when the rules of battle are already screaming at him? He clocks it. She's got her own mess going on, and he's kicking himself for not getting the chance to talk to her from the very start. Antio lets out a soft, teasing chuckle, like he's already got the upper hand. She finally steps forward and introduces herself as Antia the Ancient Elf, fully realizing just how dangerous the power she tried to challenge really is. When she demands his name, he answers Sukuru Sumaragi, and the moment those words hit, she bows formally and surrenders to him. She throws herself into his arms without holding back, daring him to do whatever he wants. Sonia's party surges forward, and she's already bracing to fight because she'll protect her master from this brand new captive. Antio leans in and asks, "Are you trying to drive her into a rampage and hunt her down just like the other monsters?" That weird question slams into his crew, and total confusion takes over. He finally admits he ignored her before, and she instantly snaps, asking if he'll let her explain what's really going on now. Right then, Basie bursts out of the shadows, gripping the moment about to drop a critical report on the Great Wolf Forest. The whole crew lines up, braced and burning with anticipation, because this is the moment they finally crack the truth wide open. A skeletal familiar clutched its master tight, like the moment it had waited for. Then it settled in, duty fully done. The undead knight hauls its report back from the Great Wolf Forest, delivering every grim detail straight on its master's orders. The protagonist stared at the rampaging monsters and wondered if they were just their own familiars gone feral. But before the thought could even settle, he shot it down fast. The familiar tells them it felt the monsters get chased out like a faint but unmistakable demon aura crawling in the shadows. The Elf Queen makes it clear that some demons can control monsters, and suddenly, just like that, they're not enemies, at least not right now. To make up for the trouble, she welcomes them into safety inside the hidden elven village. As soon as they rolled in, the elves sprang into celebration and welcomed their queen, Antia, back home. Antia barks orders to her people, prepare the rooms, cook the food, and get everything ready for her guests. She kneels to calm the young beastfolk kids, promising them a safe, peaceful night with nothing to fear. The crew gets marched through the settlement, where every rule is ironclad and the outside world gets kept at a distance. Antia admits the elves crave peace above all, but the moment demons show up, they're bound by oath to step in and fight. The protagonist finally gets how serious this is. If that demonic threat blows up, the human and beast folk tribes will be forced to move. No questions asked. Antia grabs him and shouts that he can't afford to underestimate this because what's coming isn't some lone rogue demon. It's way more twisted and dangerous. Then she starts spilling an ancient story, one that happened thousands of years ago. It was a brutal war against giants and demons. 4 tribes teamed up, and in the end, the whole continent got wiped out. Even in this so-called era of peace, the tribes of the Quadruple Alliance that are secretly forging their military power in the dark. She drops a bombshell. Human tribe has been acting suspicious for a full century, and it could be the spark that kicks off another continental war. If this demon is just the first punch of a new assault, Antia snaps that they can't let history repeat itself away. She demands the Quadruple Alliance lock back together because a deadly threat is closing in fast. The protagonist sits off to the side, completely unbothered by the terrifying news hitting the others. Even as Antia begs for an alliance with her whole heart, Antia still can't miss the truth in his eyes. He couldn't care less about her call. Kanan strides up, spots him by the water, and closes in fast. She asks if he'll team up with the elves. He shuts her down with a hard no. She nails it. He's definitely not from this world. Kanan can't shake the rumors of summoned heroes, especially the one who got tossed aside, the fallen hero who shared his name. He steps in and proves it straight up, admitting they never once recognized him as part of their group. They tossed him into the Great Wolf Forest and left him there just because he was a cook with 0 fighting skills. He spills the horrors he survived, claws his way back to life for one brutal purpose: revenge on the ones who betrayed him, not to save the world. Kanan's yelling turns ferocious as he hammers the point home he saved her, and he saved countless others in Algria City. She slips her fingers into his and declares, "To me and to everyone you saved, you're the real hero." Tears shimmered in her eyes as she swore she'd never forgive the ones who wronged him. Sonya and the others show up, catching every word they heard, and then they hit back with the exact same feelings. The protagonist goes wide-eyed, realizing his whole party had been eavesdropping the entire time. Hannah needles him, gloating that everyone adores him, then casually demands she gets to tag along on his journey. Even the Elf Queen steps in, offering her help and insisting her knowledge would be a game-changer for his cause. Every girl swarms in around him, and Kanan's flustered as the whole chaos erupts all at once. And Antia stands there alone, lost in deep thought about what it really means to summon a hero. She starts asking the real question, what's the summoning even for? Because right now, there's not a single threat that would justify something that drastic. Suddenly, the earth starts shaking violently, then cracks and tears open like it can't hold together anymore. A towering stone giant heaves itself out of the earth, and its massive size makes the whole forest look tiny. The squad stumbles into a peaceful elven grove, ringed by crystal-clear waters that shimmer all around them. While the protagonist and his party finally kick back, Elf bursts in and declares their food is ready. His beastfolk companion can barely contain herself. She's buzzing with excitement, practically craving a meal cooked by Elf. To everyone's shock, the elves rolled out the main course right away, a giant grilled insect they hunted just for them. The protagonist and the Samtire party freeze in stunned silence, absolutely sickened by that dish. The elf kid jabs a smile onto her face and urges her immortal master, Antia, to stuff her plate before she heads out to watch the humans. Antia grips her sword and promises, "I'll be back in 100 years. A blink to her, but an eternity to anyone human. The whole party leans in and hisses to each other. No one can even handle the idea of eating insects, but the elves were practically cheering them on to eat. One of them even laughed and confessed she'd been munching them nonstop every time she got lost in the forest. The protagonist stared at the mess with a heavy, defeated glare, realizing there wasn't a single escape route in sight. He slides right in, thanks the elves for their hospitality, and like a promise of gratitude offers to cook for everyone. The elves are frozen in shock, staring at him like, how are you even supposed to carve that thing open when its shell is way too tough for any normal person to take down? Deciding to flex for an audience, he yanks his blade free and unleashes his skill like a statement. He cuts straight through the iron-hard carapace like it's nothing, and the elves are left staring in pure shock at the raw power on display. With expert precision, he crafts a feast like he's summoning a masterpiece one perfect move at a time. He sets down the perfectly cooked meal, and with one masterful move, his cooking turns that grotesque creature into something beautiful and flawless. His companions practically explode with joy, calling the food the most delicious thing they've ever tasted. Deep inside, the protagonist tears apart the elves' first try, clocking that they totally overcooked the meat. Once the meal was wiped clean, his companions leaned in and demanded to know what he'd do next. Training's over. So what's the move? He spills his plan to hit the crude empire to the south. Then a warning slams and the road's been cut off. His party is dead worried, grilling him like, "Tell me you actually know where you are in this world's map, right?" One of them blurts out that the second he busted out of the forest, he was heading the total wrong way. Snapping, the elf leader labels him hopeless, then slams a map of the whole continent into his hands. She lays it all out how the whole continent gets split up between elves, humans, and the beast folk and dwarves in the central territory. She points out where they are deep inside the wolf great forest, then jabs at the horizon and reveals the raid crude empire's far-off presence. They pitch the safest path through two nearby kingdoms until the protagonist spots one and realizes, with a jolt, it's exactly where Ichinos was sold. Kanan gives the route a green light. She's taken it before, and it never once throws her off. They lock in the choice and take the suggested path. Right when their plan is clicking into place, an elf bursts in like a fire alarm, screaming an urgent warning. They stare up at the sky and oh no, a gigantic object rips through the clouds like a meteor, charging straight toward them. Every last person in the village scrambles to evacuate because they can't miss the horrifying spectacle about to unfold. One of his companions strides forward, snapping that she'll use her magic to stop it cold. The elf leader steps in, promising her help, and pushes the idea that they should team up their fire and wine spells to hit with maximum power. They blast a spiraling storm of destructive energy straight at the descending threat. The unstoppable combined spell rockets up into the sky, straight to collide with the target head-on. Their magic slams into that enormous, towering mass. But just when they think they've got it, the attack fizzles, doing nothing but leaving it completely unbothered. It tears right through their spell like it's nothing. It slams into the forest nearby with earth-shattering force, ripping the ground apart and unveiling the monster-sized truth: it's an entire mountain. His party lets out a huge wave of relief because the village dodged the blast and wasn't hit head-on. The elf leader seethes with rage and vows vengeance on whoever dared to lay a hand on her sacred forest. When the dust finally clears, a towering figure rises out of the crater like it's coming for revenge. An ancient giant called Crafton towers over them, and its very presence screams one thing: war is coming. A line gets carved into the sand, and the defenders swear they'll rip out anything that tries to break through, because that forest means everything. When their foe finally shows up, they fire up a crafter's rage and forge the ancient giant. The colossal warrior erupts in laughter, totally mocking Antia's tiny frame. The protagonist studies his opponent, a top-tier destruction specialist, but then sneers, calling him a coward who once begged for help. Crafton fires accusations at the hero, claiming he's the mastermind behind the monster invasion and demanding to know exactly what he's trying to pull off. Antia snaps in fury, demanding why he's suddenly shown up. But the giant just shrugs and says he came to check on her the moment her presence disappeared. He smirks, instantly clocking it. She's already burned through her second life. Lunge steps forward and declares this is the very last encounter Craft on Lunge is done for good. In a blur of motion, the protagonist flips through the air and snaps the attack out of its path. His blade sunk deep into the giant's arm, and the first blood splashed the battlefield. Reeling from the brutal surprise attack, Crafton roars for answers, demanding to know exactly who's behind it. The hero calmly admits he snatched Antia's second life and even offers to face that giant alone. He roars like thunder, spitting pure hatred for those powerful tyrants who crush the weak. Craft reeled in confusion, staring at the scene as he demanded answers. Why would anyone step in to protect the exact guy he had just beaten? The protagonist taunts the giant for misreading his power, straight up asking if he's just terrified to face it. He throws down one last savage ultimatum: apologize for wrecking the forest, and he'll let you live. The giant sneers and slams a massive swing at him, but the hero slips the hit with effortless style. The crowd finally clocked it. This was always his master plan, baiting the Titan away from everyone else. As the non-combatants get hauled out, They've got nothing left to do but pray he stays alive. Crafton snaps with growing impatience, slamming his demand down, stop spinning out of his moves and fight me head on. The protagonist smirks at the giant's brainless blunder, then tightens his grip and readies his blade for the real fight. Crafton's blade shrieks as it claws across the giant's brutal hide, but he shrugs it off like it's nothing more than an annoying little itch. He laughs and claims a human's blade is useless against him, insisting that the first strike only connected because they caught him off guard. Fuming at how fast his opponent moves, the giant slams the ground right where he was standing a second ago. He bellows that those lightning-quick moves are useless against his overwhelming power. One more earth-shattering blow swings through the air, but it totally misses its target. The protagonist slips back behind his foe and snaps, warning him to brace himself. Energized by the coming fight, the giant rips into a thunderous roar, craving a head-on showdown. The hero nods and unleashes a brutal hellfire/pure devastation. The attack detonates in a blinding burst of deadly energy, ripping everything apart in seconds. That shockwave hits like a freight train, blasting the onlookers backward and leaving them dizzy from the sheer brutality of the impact. They stare in total disbelief, trying to wrap their minds around the absolute disaster that's unfolding right in front of them. From the choking smoke, Crafton bursts out laughing. Then he grins at the boy and congratulates him for being the first one to survive the attack. His body twists as the mask drops. He's the founder of the giant tribe, and he demands his opponent's name like it's a matter of survival. The hero leans in and says, "I'm Sukuru Sumaragi, and yeah, I'm human." Asking the big question, did the human race dig up yet another ancient relic? Kuru slams the claim shut, insisting he's nothing special, just an ordinary guy. The giant clocks the lie instantly, shrugs it off as pointless, and Sukuru's making him take this dead seriously now. He snaps his arm out and lands a punch so fast it blinds you. That pressure wave slams into Sukuru before the fist even lands, yanking him completely off balance. Crafton slams him into the dirt, blood pouring out, and makes it crystal clear his own carelessness is what wrecked everything. The towering giant hangs over him and calmly declares it. His fate is locked in, sealed for good. Sukuru surges to his feet, defiance blazing in his eyes, and snaps that he was only warming up. Crafton breaks into a laugh at that crazy, bold claim. He lunges again, promising this tough guy routine is finally over once and for all. The beast man starts crafting his next move, jeering at his opponent like, "What's your deal? Why are you just standing there?" He smirks and gloats now that his power and speed have surged. He's pushed Sukuru to the point where the only thing left is pure defense. Sukuru fights for every inch, his hands crammed together just barely blocking a nonstop barrage. That divine sword in his grip is already screaming, "This fight is going to beat you at your current level." It basically tells you Crafton's power and skill are on a whole different level, so Sukuru doesn't stand a snowball's chance in a straight-up clash. The sword demands a brand new game plan, and Sukuru has to unleash his camouflage and dark magic, swirling a perfect distraction until it spots its opening. It snaps out a string of harsh commands, hurling Sukuru into a faster run, every move sharper, every step dead on. Crafton catches the instant his opponent changes tempo, and the sword's pressure forces Sukuru to dig deeper and sprint straight into his absolute limit. Then it opens and that sword barks an order straight into his bones, "Strike his enemy's face." Craft laughs it off, swearing that a blunt sword can't touch him. Then the blade flips the script and unveils its real identity, a deadly black mist. Sukuru lifts his weapon high, ready to unleash its full brutal power. He blasts out his ultimate move on the spot, and the Beastman is hit with the kind of shock it can't recover from. A brutal storm of strikes hammers Crafton without mercy. The Beastman's roar tears through the air, and he refuses straight up to go down. He snaps the strike aside with a clean parry, and Sukuru can't believe what he's seen. That impact detonates like a thunderclap, unleashing a massive explosion. The shockwave blasts both fighters backward, like they just got slammed by a cannon. Sukuru slumps, beaten, but his sword won't let him stay down. It drives him to his feet and tells him to heal, because deep down he knows their whole plan just wasn't enough. Craft looms over him, scrambling to whip up recovery food before his opponent stops being useful, because soon there's no way to salvage him. He finally admits it, what a fight that was, the first time he'd ever been driven so far. But right when he's about to land the final blow, Kanan rockets in front of him, screaming pure defiance. She swears she'll never let him lay a finger on her master because he's not ending her story like that. As Sukuru's consciousness slips away, a mysterious voice leans in and asks if he wants to get stronger. It blasts a warning in his face if he doesn't snap to an answer fast. Both he and his companion will die. Sukuru clenches his resolve and declares, "I can't die here," because he's determined to become stronger than anyone. The divine being listens in silence, then nods ready to lift her protection from him. She drops a cryptic line and tells him, with eerie confidence, that the meaning will hit him soon, like it's already waiting around the corner. Sukuru jerks upright. His wound is gone, like it never even happened. A system window flashes and shouts the seal of divine protection is finally gone, and he's just unlocked a brand new world-shaking skill, Feast of the God. He springs up from the ground, and a brand new power surges through his veins like lightning. The skill lets him cook up a dish that unleashes God-tier power for a full 5 minutes. He doesn't care who handed him that power. He only cares about one thing, crushing Crafton. Once he chowed down on that half-baked snack, the skill ignited instantly. A notification flashes that he's been temporarily handed the goddess's divine power, and his craft immediately leaves everyone at a loss for words. The Beastman sneers, refusing to accept that a simple power-up could fell an ancient brute like him. In the blink of an eye, Sukuru rockets into view and smashes him with a bone-crushing strike. On Real's back, he was left utterly frozen, hit with a speed so brutal he couldn't even register what was happening. He can't stop wondering if his enemy is even human, because another savage slash rips across his body. Sukuru towered over the fallen enemy, and the power surging through him crushed everything in its path. He slams in his final strike, Guillotine Hellfire. A savage torrent of dark energy swallows Crafton whole. Sukuru just stands there, watching his enemy get wiped out completely. Rain suddenly crashes down on the silent battlefield, ravaged and still. What's left behind is pure destruction, nothing but ruin. A divine power just snapped to life inside them, but it didn't come for free. The protagonist stands tall in victory, perched over the colossal beast corpse as his blood soaks him. While he's there, his companion just freezes gawking at him, then blurts only one word, "Master." But when she tries to speak to him, her thoughts get tangled and she can't find the right words. Suddenly, Sonya rockets onto his back and blurts out that he was absolutely incredible in that fight. The others crowd in to take in his condition, and one of them blurts out that she'd never expected anything less from her master. The first girl clenched her fists, seething with frustration because she failed again, and because if he got beaten, his sacrifice would have meant absolutely nothing. But one of their allies bursts in, screaming that the fight isn't finished yet. She drops a terrifying bombshell. Crafton, their enemy, has the brutal power called Second Life. Right then, the resurrected Crafton explodes into action, so the party pushes their master to swing fast, before his divine power slips away. But Crafton barrels through them like a storm, slamming a brutal spell that blasts every last one of them away. The blast hits without warning, and the protagonist gets blindsided so hard they can't even react. A blinding flash wrecks his vision, one he knows from the moment he first summoned them into this world. And when the light finally dies down, he snaps to his senses in a barren, unfamiliar wasteland with his party at his side. Crafton's hammer slammed them into a brand new world. But hey, the crazy part is, everyone's still alive. This place feels crazy familiar, like it's pulling him back into the world he came from. He freezes as dread hits him. This empty wasteland is where his journey began. Without a single warning, he crumples to the ground, and his companions are left stunned. Face first on the ground, he suddenly feels something wild crawl through him. His body suddenly goes stone still, and his party yells his name in panic, begging for him to respond. Meanwhile, in Luke Sandale's capital city, a desperate beast folk throws himself at the summoned heroes, begging them for help. Suzunan surges forward to save his poisoned daughter with a healing touch. Only her friend snaps in fast and blocks him. Her friend snaps a warning at her beast folk can't be trusted. They'll likely strike, then rob her blind. She coldly scoffs and says he likely snatched the kid because people like him always fake illnesses for Cat. Susan clung to his torn, struggling heart, forced to face the brutal truth that this world doesn't value life at all. Her friend spits pure disgust at the locals' people there use others up, then toss them aside with zero guilt. And she can't shake the question, why were they dragged into a cruel world of slavery and discrimination, only to be forced to call it hero work? Her mind snaps back to that abandoned classmate, Sukuru, What if he's ended up begging, or something even darker? Suzanone lets out a piercing scream, begging him to stop spitting out those awful things. Her friend huddles close, pushes her to toughen up, and swears that once she gets stronger, they'll finally beat the demon lord and claw their way back home. She tosses them a spark of hope, hinting they might stumble onto Sukuru before it's all over. Suzuno grips her friend's hand tight, sealing her belief that she'll meet Sukuru again someday. Out in the desolate wasteland, the protagonist slumps unconscious, and the brutal cost of his power finally comes due. The whole party huddles around their fallen master, begging and shaking him, trying to snap him out of unconsciousness. Even though his mind is racing, the protagonist's whole body turns to stone battle recoil, still pinning him in place. His friends finally figured it out. The beast god's punishment had robbed him of his sense of touch. The weird title he got hit like a lightning strike, and it totally freaked everyone out. Turns out they started calling him the Weird One after he blanked on the whole "I left myself unclothed last time" incident. Paralyzed and crushed into silence, he can only rage scream inside his head, begging them to shut up before the embarrassment gets worse. Antia and Hannah come back from scouting, and they slam their findings down. This place is crawling with demons, but there's not a single other tribe in sight. The protagonist just listens. Crafton's words hit him hard again. Giants and demons are roaming this land. Antioch repeats what Sukuru told them. Those giants were shoved out of the world ages ago, right during the gods' war. They wrestle with the scary thought that the demon's ancient kind might actually be dead, but the moment they entertain it, they shut it down as impossible. Antioch believes you can tame the other tribe's power only two ways, either crush them into submission or lock them away completely. A chilling truth hits them like a truck. What if they're trapped in that very prison right now? The protagonist blurted, "It's only a theory," but without his sense of touch, he's helpless and he needs time to bounce back. Right away, one of his buddies jumps in and volunteers to pitch the tent. The others snap into action, splitting up fast to set up camp and lock down the area. One of the girls clocks that Kanan looks absolutely wrecked inside. Kanan tries to shut down the worry, insisting that everything's totally fine. Hannah leaned in and reassured her, saying the nerves were completely normal in a moment like this, and that a warm meal would settle her shaking heart. Later, inside the tent, everyone drops to rest while the protagonist lies there completely still, like he's holding his breath. Hannah jumps back, startled out of nowhere when he snatches her hand just as she goes to check on him. Rage and regret crash inside him as he realizes he's powerless, begging for strength to stop her suffering. His sword wants to speak for him, but he clamps down hard, silent, unshakable, refusing him. Hannah sits with the heavy weight of her trauma scars, knowing those wounds don't heal overnight. They linger for a long, hard time. Suddenly, his fingers thaw back to life. His senses rush in like they never left. With his senses back online and his skills fully restored, he surges upright and calls forth a terrifying undead servant. He declares they're going to investigate, but the moment he feels the summoning, he realizes it burned a way too large chunk of magic. He checks his status and finds nothing off, just the brutal proof that his weaker skills have been burned away, traded off through equivalent exchange. He pinpoints the insane magic cost as something this weird land is messing with, then spots a mysterious woman staring back at him in his status. His teeth grind together as pure frustration boils over. As everyone slept, Antia spilled how she launched those ruthless demon scouts, then watched them strike. She tells him that every time a demon corpse hits the ground, Bees the familiar he summons drinks up their souls and spits out even more minions. Baze bursts back from the mission, grinning as he reports he's pushed to the edge of this world and wiped out their enemies along the way. The undead servant backs up their worst nightmares. This isn't their home at all. It's a whole different dimension. The protagonist realizes this brand new world could be the shortcut back home if they can hunt down foes strong enough to unlock it. Elsewhere, a dark ruler on his throne hears the nightmare news. One of his own units has disappeared without a trace. The commander's face is all grit. He didn't even leave corpses behind. Gazan, a low-ranking subordinate, is hauled into the light and ancient things sealed away for centuries. Then a single command crashes down, wipe out the intruders. He lifts his gaze, drops to his knees, and obeys his master's command instantly. No hesitation at all. The skeletal mage leans in and growls, "The ancient type is trapped inside this very castle." The protagonist barks the order, and the whole party surges forward, ready to advance. Then bam, their road gets slammed shut by a demon noble, a vampire count called Gazing. Level 245's demon vows to wipe out anyone who dares to disturb this sacred land. Just as he's about to finish his threat, someone shuts him down mid-sentence. A beastkin warrior already ripped into the fight with a lightning-fast, brutal attack. As they push forward, one of their companions spots it, countless abnormalities popping up out of nowhere all around them. The elf pieces it together on the spot. This is it. They're closing in on their real target, in the ancient type. The protagonist breaks into theory mode about the giant's weapon Mjolnir and insists someone from the outside handed it to him. Another companion jumps in, saying elves, beast folk, and dwarves all lack the magic needed to forge an artifact like that. The Lich drops a chilling hint. Either summon the cunning death spirits who hate the giant tribe or admit the weapon got stolen. So now it's either the human clans or the demon tribes behind it, and that slams the hero into a whole new question. What if that ancient type isn't what they've been calling it all along? A terrifying weight slams into the air, and in an instant, thousands of soldiers are wiped out. The moment he feels that crushing presence, he snaps at Santia, a monster who's over level 300, and he declares this slaughter is unforgivable. One of his crew snaps, then unleashes a roaring torrent of magical energy in response. They slip away from the party, steeling themselves for the showdown that's about to hit. Before they can even catch their breath, they slam right into brand new, terrifying enemies. Ancient evil Cthulhu slithers onto a throne like it owns the world, a level 440 demon that snarls and taunts one of the hero's companions. The demon lord smirks and needles her subordinate for his disloyalty right in front of everyone. He keeps talking down to them, blasting them as foolish for daring to fight him in his own turf. The protagonist snaps back hard, demanding to know who's really the fool because the demon's tribe has to borrow power just to keep fighting. Rage blazing, Sonya Beastkin warrior lunges forward, swearing she'll be the one to slice him down herself. But the demon's already primed, and his cursed eyes snap open to unleash their deadly skill. Sonya gets trapped in his stare, and in seconds she crumples to the floor, frozen, unable to move. Cthulhu is smug as he boasts that the resistance is powerless against his brutal ocular abilities. He declares that his cursed eyes are so deadly irresistible, nobody can look away. The demon snaps in with a second strike, and those poison eyes glare like they'll hunt you to the end. The protagonist snaps into action, throwing himself over his fallen comrade and screams at the others to look away. The demon erupts in laughter and declares that anyone under his curse is now nothing but his puppet. But in a lightning blur, the hero rockets forward and smashes the gap between them. The ancient demon is left speechless because that speed is straight up impossible. With his eyes shut, the protagonist leans on presence detection and snaps into position to land the strike. The creature can only stare in shock as the human drops a devastating critical hit. Right as the demon scrambles to trigger his second life skill, the hero cuts in cold and merciless, telling him it's already too late. He leans in as the creature fades and tells it, "Out of every ancient type I've faced, you're the weakest." After the fight, the party scours the monster's remains, only for Sonya to drop her head and apologize for coming up empty on anything useful. The protagonist stared at the creature's meat like it was poison, grimacing as he admitted he wanted nothing to do with eating it. Antia marches up to her master, drops to her knees, and makes one deadly serious request. She begs, pleading for the one thing she wants most permission to devour the feast of the god. Kanan snaps her demand into the air and demands one thing: she wants to consume the feast of the god. Even in her sleep, she feels it. Dolce never stops guarding her. A woman with cat ears bursts into view in the doorway like she's just stepped out of a dream. She sweeps her off her feet and pulls her into a walk, catching Kanan completely off guard. Holding up a jar, she tells Kanan to guard what's inside and keep it secret from Sonya. She swings the jar around and spills the truth. It's packed with sweets, a secret request sent by the Abbas family's maid. Kanan can't stop drowning in self-pity, convinced she's gotten nowhere as an apprentice, and that hope is slipping out of her hands. She sizes herself up against the cat-eared maid, and the maid just smirks back, saying she's paid for her sins unlike Kanan. Kanan remembers the maid was blackmailed, but she quickly snaps back that Lord Abyss and Master Altaria were dragged into it too. The maid swears she'll repay that kindness with interest, pledging her whole heart and her entire life to her master. She straight up admits her skills don't even come close to her master's, but don't count her out because she can still be deadly useful. Her words hit Kanan like a wave of relief, and he thanks her from the bottom of his heart. With fresh fire in her heart, she vows to push herself to the absolute limit, using every bit of power she's got. The story snaps right back to our protagonist as he thrusts the divine artifact into view. He fires off a warning about how gluttony has limits, but she won't budge because she's set on devouring the feast of the gods no matter what. She's sure this power will unlock her space-time magics, letting her cross worlds at will, the same power she's been craving for ages. He tells her the power only lasts 5 minutes before her senses get obliterated, but she grins anyway and pays the price. She tells him, straight up once his revenge is done, she'll bring him right back home. Or she offers to go even further. She'll actually accompany him back to his original world. The moment his former home gets brought up, his face hardens and the darkness floods in. With a cold declaration that he's got no love left for that world, he still lets her feast on the gods' feast. He spots that golden, shimmering chunk of divine flesh, and his eyes can't look away. He tells her to lock in on her wish as she devours it. The second it hits her tongue, it's brutally disgusting, yet he snaps at her to swallow it anyway. But she grits her teeth, shoves the fear aside, and prays with everything she's got, begging for the space-time magic that can send them back home. A brutal wave of energy detonates from where she stands, tearing the air apart. A blinding, brilliant light engulfs her as ghostly, ethereal spirit creatures suddenly materialize all around her. Everyone stares in awe as a warm, beautiful glow erupts through the chamber. Tears streaming down her face, she chokes out that it's time to go back. Her spell snaps into place, kicking off their sprint back to their own world while across the way, a robed figure breaks the news it didn't work. They double-check, and nope, there's still not a single trace of what they came hunting for. Some unseen superior tears the latest attempt to shreds, calling it a total failure, then orders the next wave of heroes to be summoned. He mutters under his breath about a coming awakening. He rants that the summoned heroes are all stuck below level 100 and calls them totally worthless. He lays bare his twisted scheme, snagging the failed heroes and turning them into sacrifices for the next summoning ritual. The chilling, ruthless face of the mastermind behind those summonings finally comes into view. A mysterious woman flashes a warm smile as the group gets yanked through a dazzling portal. A booming voice announces, loud and clear, that they're back right in their own world. But the protagonist suddenly finds himself alone, lost in a peaceful garden that feels totally foreign. He scans the area in alarm, realizing somehow he's been left behind, out there all alone without his companions. He snaps to the truth. This isn't the wolf forest, and it isn't Japan. Then a voice sweeps in and welcomes him straight into her realm. He whips around on pure instinct, fully braced for danger. Then she calmly tells him to relax, because nothing's wrong. The serene woman leans in and says, clear as day, I'm not your enemy. She introduces herself as Ohuru Minomakoto, one of Japan's legendary pillar gods. With zero patience left, he snaps, demanding to know exactly where his friends have vanished. The goddess tells him she dragged him here by himself because she's got a whole stack of requests waiting for him. She swears she knows every detail of his life, even the stuff that happened before he was ever born. The goddess relives the exact moment of his summoning in full detail, shattering him into stunned silence. He calls her useless, but she snaps back. If she'd stepped in, the interference would have triggered a dimensional explosion and wiped out every single bit of Japan. She warns that the cataclysm wouldn't stop. It would spread like a curse and annihilate every living thing on Earth. Instead, she rained blessings on the summoned, broke the seal on his S-rank luck, and sparked a whole stack of other abilities. The goddess leans in and admits she's the one who brewed his ridiculously overpowered skills. With a sharp shift in her tone, she snaps that her blessings turned all his skills into cheat-level powers. She had to fine-tune the power perfectly because the full blast would have shattered his level 1 body and erased him in an instant. He swallows her explanation, then leans in and demands to know her real true objective. She orders him to wipe out every all-dimensional summoning facility in the other world, so no one gets kidnapped again. As he flashes back on his past, it all clicks. His power was never just a gift. It was built for this exact moment. Score-obsessed Crestwave Academy in Character 1 Iron Gate Reform School. He signs on to her terms, then shoots back with one sharp question: what's he getting in return? The goddess is stunned. She thought her blessing should have been payment enough, yet he treats it like it's a whole separate deal. After a tense back and forth, she grudgingly caves and agrees to his demand for even more compensation. Then she leans in close, slipping you a priceless piece of intel like it's part of the payment. The goddess drops a bombshell and she brings up his sister, Ayumi, and he freezes completely, caught totally off guard. She spills that his companions will soon be heading back home because Kanan has finally mastered space-time magic. But she drops a terrifying warning: no way, no how. His classmates are allowed to come back to Japan. To stop the whole world from spiraling into panic, the goddess had to rip herself back through time and wipe every trace of the 10 and 8 students from existence. She tells him they're wiped out in Japan, birth records erased, and coming back would only shovel them deeper into suffering. He can't help but wonder if they're determined to turn back no matter what. What's even going to happen? She lays it all out. She can forge brand new identities for them and they'll get to start over as total strangers in a whole new life. He finally clocks the truth of their deal, a deadlock so tight that neither one can move a muscle without the other first. The goddess sells their pact like a shared alliance, equal parts promise and partnership. She cups his face in her hand and tells him, voice steady, that she's counting on him to make it. But when she spells out his full name, she dismisses him. Then his world goes blinding white as she transports him straight out of her garden. He pops back into the wolf forest, and his relieved crew rushes in to greet him. He seethes at the goddess Hirume, cursing her under his breath for turning his already wrecked life into an even bigger mess. Kanan voices her worry, but his thoughts are laser-locked on the fresh bombshell about Ayumi. His party tells him to rest, claiming it's the divine skills penalty that's messing with his body. Even as he nods along, his mind won't leave his sister behind. Her fate hits harder, and it feels urgent above everything else. He leans in and demands to know how many days have gone by since Crafton's retreat. The protagonist nods and says it's only been about a month. Then he thanks his allies for guarding the village and the forest while he was gone. Out of nowhere, a brutal argument detonates between his companions. The dwarf growls about the wreckage, and suddenly you realize he, along with the ancient beasts, threw their power behind Antia. Once the crisis finally breaks, the protagonist snaps that the news about the human country's chaos is about to explode and spread everywhere. His allies lean in and demand, all right, what really happened after Crafton got forced to retreat? Somewhere else, a terrifying big shot erupts in rage, roaring like the whole world just broke. Rage boils in his chest over Timus's betrayal, and he can't stop wondering why Timus would team up with Antia to crush them. He snarls and vows he'll use demons without a second thought to crush his way to his goals. He snaps a chilling order rage, a full-blown war on the traitor. The story snaps over to Suzunan, a young woman crumpled over, drained by despair. She's crushed by memories of a boy begging for her help, and it won't let her breathe. The fallen faces slam through her mind like a brutal flashback, and they remind her right there painfully that she can't change a thing. She can still feel that total helplessness crashing over her. Hailed like a saint, she's only built to heal without a shred of strength to fight back or defy the people who summoned her. She can't shake the feeling that she's always been a burden wrapped up in her friend's protection, while all she could do was break down and cry. A sharp knock rips her out of the trance. Mickey, her friend, has shown up. Miki won't budge until she stuffs herself with food first, because the second she doesn't, she swears she'll get sick. As they head to the dining hall, Mickey throws out all casually that they're getting steak. Out of nowhere, the students nearby freeze in place and stare down the hall at whatever just caught their eye. They spot Kuriyama Kaido, another summoned fighter, dragging along a small child slave. He smugly brags that he can buy slaves in seconds, all thanks to the dungeon loot he sells. Reeking with disgust, another student rushes in to confront him, but he shuts her down cold and whispers a vile suggestion to the terrified kid. He leans in and promises the child, "Don't worry, I'm going to scrub you clean." Suzunan instantly steps in, orders him to back off, and tells him to leave the child alone. Kato explodes, snarling at her to shut up, and grills her about what makes her think she can judge him. He declares that in this new world, only the ones who adapt will live, then sneers at her for falling apart and crying nonstop. Suzunan snaps back that she's the one trapped in a dream, and it's time to face reality while the other students circle in behind her, ready to make it real. An all-powerful voice slices through the chaos, barking, "What's going on?" The students crane their necks and stare up at the grand staircase. like it's about to reveal something huge. A brutal bell blasts through the hall out of nowhere, and the whole place freezes in shock. Royal officials stride in like they own the room, demanding to know where the heroes are. They rip open a jaw-dropping announcement. Giants and demons are flooding in, and the heroes have to scramble to the battlefield right now. Orders hit link up with the other heroes from the eastern region and smash back the invasion before it swallows everything. Fear ripples through the summoned students because they thought their only job was to fight some distant demon lord, and then reality hit like a hammer. The instructor whips around to Suzunan and demands to know what she's about to do. Mickey lunges forward, declaring she'll protect her friend no matter what. Susan orders her, "Don't you dare talk like you've already accepted death." She feels dread sink in. If those few healers go down, they're all doomed to be wiped out, even while the boys brag about how tough their training supposedly is. One of the fighters whips around and tells her, "If I get hurt in the fight ahead, heal me." She nods hard, like she already understands that healing isn't just her gift, it's the one job nobody else can touch. So she snatches her own courage back, swallows the tears, and vows no more crying, because they're going to make it through this together. No more tears, time's up. A messenger bursts in and shouts that demons and giants are charging in from the eastern sea. Even with the knights and heroes going all out, the sheer flood of enemies crushes their ranks, and he realizes the only way forward is to beg the four-tribe alliance for help. The battlefield looks like the world ended. Smoke-choked ruins everywhere, bodies scattered across scorched earth like the fire swallowed everything. Elsewhere, the summoned students are trapped in pure desperation. With one of their own bleeding out, panic detonates inside the group as they realize they're seconds away from being wiped out for good. Student leader Cujo lunges to restore order, tearing apart any talk of surrender because giving up means instant death. He whips out a pouch of body-strengthening pills, the ones the head priest handed to him. The others lunge for the pills right away, but Kuzu snaps, "Wait, once 10 hours pass, they'll freeze you in place, totally immobile." Bound together by this new power, they decide to unleash the pills and wipe out the enemy forces. A wave of raw power hits them the second the drugs kick in. Fresh confidence surges through them, and the students slam into the chaos, ready for whatever hits next. As the crowd surges into the fight, one of them slams their fist down and declares, "No!" Kuzu finally drops the truth. This isn't a fight at all. It's a getaway, because they don't have a shred of loyalty to their kidnappers. One student snaps, "So why'd you hand out those pills if we were retreating?" While the other student shrugs and admits, "Yeah, fair point." Out of nowhere, one of their classmates snaps into a berserk frenzy, his eyes blazing with pure, unfiltered rage. He finally cracks the horrifying truth. Those pills slam his body into a berserk rage, and now they're trapped fighting until they crumple from sheer exhaustion. He drops the truth about Kujo's betrayal, then smirks as he admits it all. He used them as bait to make his own escape possible. The berserker snarls at them to run as he slams into the fight and holds the line because the pills wrecking his body even as he stands there. The remaining students bolt straight into the thick, tangled forest. Two of the girls track the footprints, and one of them vows right there that Kujo will pay for his betrayal. She won't budge an inch. She'd rather throw herself into death than ever walk away and leave her friend behind. Her companion nods and says straight up, "This battle isn't for any kingdom, it's for keeping her friends safe." With their determination set in stone, they stand shoulder to shoulder, ready to take on whatever comes next. They spill out into a massive clearing wide open, deadly exposed, no cover in sight. A massive giantess suddenly stomps into view right in front of them. The giant finally speaks, and when she declares that the girl is tiny, even by her own kind standards, astonishment hits her like a truck. She towers over the body of one of their dead classmates. The giant sneers at them, daring the swordswoman to actually try to take her down, and she snaps forward without hesitation to answer the challenge. The girl rockets forward in blinding speed and hammers a devastating strike straight into the colossal monster. Her blade lands yet, the giant shrugs it off, totally unscathed. The magic user starts chanting right away, locking in a supportive spell, because she can't throw a single attack. She swears she'll stay right in her friend's reach, poised to jump in and heal her the second she's needed. The giant can't stand it. She clocks the whole tactic is useless because every hit gets her opponent healed instantly. Targets shift, then the giant rockets forward to crush the healer, but her friend steps in and intercepts the hit. The girl gets hit with the full impact of a strike meant for her companion. Even after getting launched, she clenches her teeth and refuses to let them outmaneuver her again. She's sprawled on the ground, gravely hurt, while that giant towers over her like a living nightmare standing right over her as the end draws near. As the giant winds up for the final strike, she snaps and screams at the magic user to stop right now. Then the giant roars like the world's ending, because this is it. She slams her fist down to crush the fallen student. The elder lays it all out. Craftons have been secretly invading the human country by unleashing giants and demons like a hidden weapon. The beast folks stare, baffled, at what happened to the summoned heroes, while the elves lean in and grill the protagonist about where he's headed. He loudly proclaims his next stop, the human country. He swears he'll be back once Kanan's recovered, and his sudden exit leaves his companions staring in pure shock. But just as he's about to bolt, a massive, overwhelming presence bursts out from that nearby sanctuary. A squad of hooded figures steps out of the shadows, and their raw power hits you like a wave. The moment they suddenly show up, the protagonist freezes in pure shock. He locks eyes with their leader and snaps, asking why he's even here. The Elf Queen stares him down and declares he's an ancient kind of human. The elder Temes drops to his knees, begging for help as the giants who wrecked his village close in. The Elf Queen sneers at him, flat out refusing to believe his plea for cooperation. She points at him, screaming that he set up Crafton's attack, claiming he did it by handing him the divine weapon, Jolnir. She demands he apologize for his treachery and hammers him with what he's done before his past aggression. Temus drops his head and apologizes, insisting he never imagined Crafton would unleash that weapon with such brutal cruelty. The protagonist can't stop watching, stunned that forgiveness comes so easy. The queen finally spills the truth. Temus once tried to wipe out her entire tribe so humans could rule supreme. Out of nowhere, one of the elder's guards yells a warning at the top of his lungs. The knights barrel through the crowd, shoving everyone out of the way until they carve out a clear path. Tima blocks the protagonist and snaps, "Not yet, you're not going home." The elder snaps at him to stay nonviolent, and Sinisal spits back the insult right in return. A dark memory slams back into the protagonist's mind, and he swears he'll never forget the moment he was cast aside. He surges forward in a blur, face blazing, and demands right now whether the old man finally remembers him. He unleashes a raging flood of earth magic. A wicked grin twists across his face as he dares the elder to strike back. He admits it straight up. Crafton crushed him with raw power and lightning speed. It didn't matter one bit. He still struck him down in an instant, with zero hesitation. The protagonist traps the elder in Darkbind magic, and trust me, this is just the opening move. As the old man bellows, he drops the truth. Every bit of his training was carved out for this one brutal moment of revenge. Temis throws wealth, power, and even a whole country at him, yet they shut him down with icy, absolute refusal. The protagonist leans in and hammers the truth into him. His vengeance will not be denied. He leans in and demands the elder admit it. Did he really think he could dodge punishment for every crime? He vows to unleash the very same brutal suffering he was trapped to endure. Right when he's about to swing, a hand gently grabs his blade and stops it in its track. It's Kanan pushing him to shut it down, breathe, and turn this chaos into an interrogation chance. The Elf Queen drags the captured elder in close and demands, point blank, what the human is planning for down to the final move. He drops the real plan, total domination, and says the only way there is to crush the powerful ghost tribe. The protagonist snaps to it. These summoned humans can't possibly pull off that feat because they don't have a single drop of the light magic it requires. The elder bursts into a laugh and says, "Nope, there's still one more path to your dream, right there." But right before he can spill the rest, his booming laughter snaps off because he dies instantly. A weird, mysterious flame snatches his body and incinerates it on the spot. A skeletal mage named Bees is unmasked as the killer. Then he vanishes deep underground, slipping through the earth like a phantom. The protagonist snarls in rage, furious that the escape slipped away and still haunted by the nagging question of who that elder was actually working for. Kanan blurts out an apology for stepping in, then locks eyes with her and swears it was never her fault. Since his plans blew up, he turns to his companions and asks, "Will you come with me?" Elsewhere, two more summoned heroes lock onto a single mission to rescue the one person they die for. The Pope-like figure drops to his knees and apologizes to the Elven Queen and her entire retinue. The Lich checks in and realizes his target moved way too fast to pin down, so he bets the guy slipped back to his own dwelling. The Beastkin leader swears she'll shield the elf village and evacuate the humans in her land, but even she can't quite understand what's really going on yet. The Elven Queen doesn't just thank them, she offers her heartfelt gratitude with quiet power. When the party realizes the next route is way too long, the protagonist slaps down a special item and makes a move. He calls up a floating carpet from his own world, one wild fairy tale relic that instantly leaves his companions gaping in disbelief. They rocket through the sky, way up above the deadly land stretching out below. From where they're standing, they stare down at a gigantic battlefield, flames and chaos tearing across the land. A feral, monstrous human snaps into view right in the middle of all this chaos. The protagonist realizes they're missing some heroes, and these fresh fighters show up with status screens that make absolutely no sense. The moment they're up in the sky, the creature on the ground snaps to attention and instantly clocks their presence. It rockets straight up at terrifying speed, and the protagonist gets jolted out of their skin. Its explosive leap tears through the air, blasting out a crushing shockwave. A brutal warrior roars, screaming that this is it, the final end is here. Mickey, a young woman, breaks down in desperate tears until a familiar scent hits her, and her attention snaps instantly. The warrior gripping her hostage suddenly spots the scent on a scrap of cloth. She whips around to her prisoner and snaps, demanding to know exactly who he is. Right when they least expect it, the protagonist bursts between them with his weapon already drawn. With total calm, he orders the warrior to let the girl go and vanish from the battlefield. That big woman freezes for a heartbeat, then lunges to help one of her wounded before the pain can stop her. Her subordinates stare at her, baffled by why she hesitates to take down just one human. They're demanding answers. Why in the world does their entire army have to retreat? She feels it immediately. This power is terrifying because she knows the moment he decides, he could wipe them all out in an instant. As a mother, she refuses to let anyone murder her sons. The protagonist barrels toward Mickey, fighting to reach her side before it's too late. Her old party members stare in stunned relief because she's finally healed. He leans in and reassures her, dragging her back to his promise, "We'll meet again." Tears welling up, she clutches him in a tight embrace like she can't let go. She shoots out an apology. Trapped in helplessness, forced to just watch his earlier suffering play out. He pulls her close, whispering that she's the only one who ever truly watched over him. His companion asks if she should patch her up, and he shoots it down, no healing needed. He tells her it wasn't anything mysterious, she just collapsed from overwhelming relief. Then the protagonist snaps his focus to the enemy commander, demanding to know where Timus is. Suddenly, a terrifying presence crashes across the entire battlefield like a living nightmare. Deep in a dark cavern, pure malice ignites and a brand new terrifying demon is born. It declares the end of the demon's torment powered by their collective hatred. The new entity howls out its targets' names, swearing it'll hunt them down for revenge. Then it blasts the battlefield with pure dark power. The giant warrior and her sons are suddenly slammed into a storm of evil energy. The new demon yanks control and orders them to become its limbs, then throws them into the fight for its cause. As soon as the demon's rampage kicks off, one of the warriors gets slammed with a shadowy tendril straight through the body. The protagonist and his party can only stand there helpless as the demons snap and start turning on each other in a full-blown frenzy. A shadowy beast rockets forward and drives its fangs straight into the hero's shoulder. The man's scream tears through the air, and the crowd finally clocks it with Akita Bapa's dead. A brand new ancient-type demon has just awakened. The hooded figure keeps staring as the chaos explodes, grinning because the demons are finally free of the giant's grip. He can't stop thinking that this one event is about to flip the entire war on its head. Down there, the last heroes watch in horror as the demons snap their chains, unleash their rage on their old masters, and drive the giants into a desperate, full retreat. They stare at the sudden twist in disbelief, wondering if the war they fought tooth and nail is really done. Breaking free from orders, they stare at the silence and wonder, what now? Because in that moment, they realize they're finally free to do whatever they want. Their leader grins like a shadow, then says it's true, and boom, they're free. One of those guys just can't stop daydreaming, seeing himself coming home as a celebrated hero, living the high life like he's already won. He grimaces at the memory of the slave girl he abandoned. Then his face lights up with anticipation for their reunion. Elsewhere, a young girl gets looked after by a rabbit like demi-human, And the whole time he frets that her innocence won't survive in this ruthless country, she lets out a heavy sigh, stuck, wondering how long she'll have to keep caring for that girl and whether their master will ever come back at all. Meanwhile, Mickey lies knocked out cold on the ground. Suzune's friend froze on the stairs, terror ripping through her as a horrifying flash of Mickey's mangled body burned into her mind. Suzune snaps her awake, frantic, whipping around to make sure she's breathing and totally unhurt. Relief crashes over her, and she pulls Mickey into a tight hug. Mickey tells her that Hana healed her body. A cat-eared woman steps up and introduces herself, then quickly explains, "Don't worry, I just served the healing food my master gave me." Then another woman steps in Kanan and introduces herself, and the two girls immediately thank them for saving the day. They're left speechless when they realize Hana and Kanan are both trapped as slaves. Hana tells them their master snatched her out of a nightmare when she'd been wrongly accused and moments from being sold into slavery. They're staring up at this massive estate now, knowing the war finally ended because the demon rebellion broke everything wide open. Elf Antia introduces herself, then everything derails when Suzune's friend freezes in shock after hearing that Sukuru killed her boyfriend. Everyone in the group freezes when Suzune gets asked, right to her face, if Sukuru is her boyfriend. Right when she tosses him aside as just a childhood friend, the protagonist shows up again like he never left. A beast girl hauling a huge boar strides in loud and fearless. And the moment she speaks, everyone snaps to attention because they know her as Ayumi. That twist that throws everyone into total chaos. Ayumi is supposed to be dead, yet the group can't stop staring at how eerily she mirrors Sanya and even Titch. Inside, the protagonist stares in disbelief and confirms it. Sonya looks exactly like his sister Ayumi. He blurts out that Ayumi isn't his real blood sister at all. She's the daughter of the family that saved him after his parents died. 2 years ago, a car crash wiped out her entire family, every single one. That's why he snapped into shock when he first met Sonya, still convinced she was Ayumi. Sonya straight up tells everyone her look isn't some trick. It's just the unmistakable style of her beastfolk tribe. She quickly tells her whole past how their masters saved her and Hana from being locked up. And that's exactly how she met him. Antia leans in grinning and says this can't be a coincidence. There's got to be a real link between Sanya and Ayumi. The protagonist tightens his fist, raging with determination to find the truth. But first he has to cash in on a favor for a guy named Hirume. Right behind them, a towering skeletal monster erupts out of thin air, and the girls freeze in pure terror. The creature leans in and asks, "So did you find the old geezer?" And the protagonist nods, confirming, "Yeah, we did." Standing beside the skeletal mage, a calm, cat-eared girl in a dark dress just watches, unshaken. With a polite grin, she sweeps into the party and introduces herself, Altarius. A woman with fox ears steps out of nowhere and shouts to Ali right in front of them. She breaks into a warm smile, practically vibrating with excitement, and dives straight into why she's showing up out of nowhere. Ailey spills that the protagonist was the very first person she bumped into after stepping through the transfer gate, and she's just relieved everyone else made it out safe. She tells him she built the whole mansion from scratch, turning her equivalent exchange power into the ultimate home base. The protagonist skips the small talk and demands the real reason she showed up. Then Allie drops the truth her father tried to shove her into an arranged marriage. She flashes a grin and swears she fled right after telling him she'd only marry the strongest person in the whole world. The crew huddles up, ready to talk about how fast their world is falling apart. Ali snaps her focus onto the protagonist, instantly sensing he's tangled in the world's unfolding chaos. A brutal notice just dropped: non-humans have to move into human territory, while Algria is already taking in refugees. Ali makes it crystal clear, if they step in directly, it'll look like a power play. And that one move will slam the brakes on their kingdom's peaceful ties with neighboring realms. She lays it all out. Her real goal is to help the protagonist get revenge on the king who betrayed him. By helping him, she can cripple the power of the entire human race, knocking out both of their goals at once. He leans in and demands to know how she plans to pull off a feat this massive. Her planet's got a nasty plan. He'll use spirit summoning to spawn a doppelganger and crush them from the inside. The doppelganger is a legendary monster that steals your whole life, shoving you out and taking your place like you never exist. The plan is ruthless. Swap out the leaders one by one, shred the king's alliance web piece by piece, and leave him with nobody, utterly stranded and alone. The whole plan rides on his power, and Ali fires back, asking if he'll go through with it, He doesn't even think twice. He just agrees. All the other girls feel the weight of the situation hit them. One of them yells the second a monster lunges out, and the other blurts out, "So are we packing up and leaving?" The protagonist locks in their destination, then charges straight into human territory, ready to tear into battle. The girl who screamed froze in terror, blurting that she can't fight anymore after what happened to her before. Her friends steadied her, urging her to grab protection by joining the knights in Albrea. They wheeled on Suzunon and practically begged her to jump into the fight, no more sitting on the sidelines. Even if she can't jump into the brawl, her holy saint magic would still be a total game changer for the team. The protagonist fires back, demanding she's 100 sure, and warns that the danger ahead is absolutely monstrous. With pure grit in her chest, Suzunon swears she'll give it everything she's got. She stands her ground, ready to explode into the chaos that's coming. Another girl loses it completely, screaming that she finally understands what's going on. A terrifying, power-packed monster gets yanked into existence right in front of them. A few of the girls look like the sight just ripped the piece right out of them. Later on, Allie tells Suzunon straight up, if she really wants in, she's got to prove she can protect herself first. She rips the air apart with a bone-shaking sonic blast. A new fighter hurls a storm of holy javelins straight at them. The clash of their combined attacks detonates into a colossal explosion, leaving the trainees reeling because none of them had any clue this was even a real combat trial. Out of nowhere, their screens explode with system notifications one after another, each screaming that they just leveled up. With his spirit driving the ritual, the protagonist summons a terrifying doppelganger lord. He slaps a name on the new entity Israel. He still remembers the contempt those who summoned him spit in his face, and that humiliation keeps powering his vengeance. His goal is pure and absolute: crush the human supremacist countries without a single ounce of mercy. By corrupting the transfer gates, he schemes to steal control of their nations one after another. The whole plan is running like clockwork, thanks to a genius strategist on his side, and it's about to send that old nemesis spiraling into fresh dread. His bony subordinate shoots back that Suzuno's survivors have finally been found. In that captured town, the protagonist steps up and announces this place is officially the hero's new base. A bunch of other summoned fighters crash the scene and tell him, loud and clear, they won't be his pawns. Even though he gets why they're furious, he still won't back their reckless stunt. He snaps at his subordinate to back off for now and push the investigation forward in total secrecy, keeping it hidden from everyone else. Elsewhere, one of the guests they're responsible for can't stop worrying, how's Suzuno doing right now? After that brutal seaside training session, his companions collapse in total exhaustion. Suzuno and Alterius finally nailed their goal, and their power burst out so hard it was impossible to miss. The protagonist steps up in front of them and admits, straight-faced, that they just pulled off something incredible. When they ask what's next, he grins and says, easy time to eat. Suzuno's stunned, there she is, sinking her teeth into sushi like it's a piece of her old world. And that first bite doesn't just surprise her, it unlocks a brand new skill too. Everyone stares in disbelief as he pulls up and lays out the feast. He watches them dig in, the flavor hitting him like a lightning strike. Then nostalgia crashes in, and he starts dreaming about going home again. But then a harsh truth hits. He has to wipe them from Earth completely, because no matter what, they'll never be able to go back. He drifts above a dead, frozen wasteland, staring into nothing like his mind is stuck in another world. Out of nowhere, a brutal surge of dark energy blasts up from beneath him, dead set on taking him out. He stays ice calm, eyes razor sharp, while his subordinate scrambles and reacts to the ambush. Out in the distance, his party felt the shockwave hit and started shouting his name. All panic and urgency, and a dark, ominous presence hangs in the air. His skeletal ally screams a brutal warning. Something's going down, and it's got Biz in its sights. The miasma crawling over this ruined wasteland keeps getting thicker and more brutal by the second. The crew rockets across cursed waters on a flying carpet, like the sea itself is daring them to keep going. Far off, their destination finally bursts into view, a brutal fortress in the Deathlands. Shattered to pieces during Ragnarok. The protagonist suddenly senses his target right where they should be, and he knows this is the perfect spot. Suddenly, ghostly creatures burst out of the miasma and swarm them from every direction. One of his companions lunges ahead and declares, "Leave the apparitions to me. I'll handle them myself. And just like that, holy magic can't do a thing to those specters because you can't kill what's already dead. The magic throws up a barrier, freezing the creature's charge for a heartbeat. And this is the exact moment the trail just vanished, like his target slipped away into thin air. Ahead, they spot a weird stone monument. Then one of the party spots it and swears it's a treasure map. She halts him, eyes locking onto the markings Japanese because it's the exact language from his original world. The whole party stares in shock because this impossible discovery makes zero sense. They think whoever got yanked in from Japan must have sent this message like it was the only clue left behind. Mystery can wait, so they lock in and keep hunting for answers. Their way gets slammed shut when a massive three-headed guardian beast comes crashing in, blocking everything. The monstrous Cerberus stares down at the party, and every step hits with an unwelcome, brutal reception. Out of nowhere, the beast surges forward and launches a brutal attack. It flat out vows to wipe out every last threat hanging over its master. The guardian blasts a furious torrent of destruction straight out of its mouth, but Hannah surges forward, determined to catch that blast solo. She rockets straight into the three-headed monstrosity, catching it off guard with one brutal leap. She darts in and slams a thunderous punch right into one of its heads. She swings in again and lands a brutal new blow on that mutt. She declares herself the wolf and elite predator at the top of the food chain. In a blink, the battle's done, and her crew erupts in praise for how fast she tore through the fight. From the smoke that's thinning away, the skeletal knight Antia steps out only to reveal she's corrupted to the core. The companions shout the wrong name at bees, and the protagonist instantly feels danger flash in the air. Antia shrieks as a dark power crashes over her, ripping her apart until she becomes a sinister swarm. The swarm surges in every strike raining down, forcing the hero to throw himself between it and his party. The anti-reformers kept her under control, pleaded for her lord to spare them, and at the same time slipped into position to strike. Just then, another ally steps in, offers to yank Antia back, and practically begs the protagonist to shove forward and not look back. Right there, the elven priestess suddenly clicks she knows exactly who's behind this corruption. He senses the real enemy up ahead and rockets forward, blazing past the fight and leaving the battle in his companion's hand. He feels that ominous black mist creeping in and realizes with dread another ally has likely already fallen. Two shadowy figures burst out of the mist, moving to slam themselves in his way. He mows them all down in a heartbeat, not even once losing his nerve. He finally stumbles onto the source only to realize the former comrade waiting there has been twisted into a puppet. He steals his resolve and vows to cut down the entity that's been controlling his friend. He stands right in front of a gigantic, ornate door, the kind that feels like it's breathing evil into the world. From the shadows, a terrifying horned demon lord steps out, revealing himself like a nightmare made real. The entity watches that one lone human claw his way into the throne room. From the queen's position, a massive sonic blast detonates and tears through the air. The elf stares into the endless swarm of spectral attackers, while the skeletal leader spits that he can't keep the tide at bay when it's a friend he's fighting to stop. The young girl stares on, her worry weighing heavy in her eyes. A specter hisses to its master, ready to report. The protagonist feels that massive energy blasting off the entity, and he swears he'll slice him down. A status window flashes his foe, an ancient ghost, a terrifying high-level presence with an ability that outright cancels any physical attack. The ghost scoffs at the thought of a human beating it, but the protagonist grins and swears his familiar black mist will be more than enough. An ancient ghost insists it only reclaimed a lackey that was stolen from it. An excuse the protagonist swats away like it's nothing. With no patience left for reason, he barrels forward anyway. His razor-smart weapon demands he calm the hell down, and the ancient ghost just marvels at how wild and rare that kind of armament really is. The spirit jeers at him, but the black mist calmly slams the intimidation right back down. The protagonist's jaw drops when the enemy blitzes in with unreal speed, but he boldly claims he's still way fast. His blade slices straight through the ghost like nothing. His strike fizzles out, instantly swallowed by the phantom's defense. The ghost taunts him to unleash a purification skill, while the black mist shrieks that its master sure as hell isn't listening. The weapon fumed with rage, screaming at its wielder for charging in like it had no sense. Sukuru tells his blade to stay back. Clenching his resolve, he's taking down the enemy all on his own. An ancient ghost sneers at the weapon, laughing that it's just a fancy toy, useless in real combat. Sukuru, unshaken, bursts forward and carves the battlefield with a jaw-dropping Conqueror slash. The attack hits and slams the ghost with injuries, leaving it stunned to its core. The spirit sneers at the minor wound, brushing it off like it's nothing but worthless junk. Sukuru barely slips out of the way as a rain of shadowy blades comes flying at him. A ghost snaps its ethereal arms forward, lunging to grab him and trap him in its grip. He gets yanked away and slammed hard into the rubble like the world just punched him. He barely scrapes together a parry to stop the next strike from landing. The two warriors unleash flurries of strikes, and their attacks explode into a violent blur as they crash head-on. Sukuru suddenly clocks the ghost's ailment, and that cursed arm is a real danger, so he refuses to let anyone touch him. He's already counting the seconds to his downfall the moment that first hit lands. Armed with that knowledge, he vows to seize victory. No punches thrown, not a single blow. The fighters lock eyes, and it's like the whole world disappears. A cataclysmic surge of power detonates from their clash, shaking everything in its way. Sukuru gets slammed by a brutal shockwave that tears everything apart. He clenches his teeth tight, and the truth hits like a freight train. He can't ignore how serious this is anymore. He fights with everything he's got, but that crushing force keeps smashing down on him. Right as the ghost fires off another brutal strike, Sukuru snaps, calling forth his weapon, Black Mist. The strike gets shoved aside, and he rockets backward, skidding hard over the cracked, busted floor. He checks his blade, breathes easy that it isn't shattered, and blurts an apology for his recklessness, swearing he'll be way more careful from now on. The sword hums back, like it's answering his call. The ancient ghost gaze snaps sharp when it realizes the intelligent weapon is alive right down to the soul. It pinpoints the blade as the very human who once transformed, using shape magic, to turn into a sword. Sukuru freezes in stunned silence, like the truth just hit him like a lightning bolt. The ghost drops the truth. Black Mist used to be human, then snaps an order, shift your form, right now. A sinister power starts roaring around the blade and its wielder, surging like a living storm. The skeletal mage finally grasps just how deadly this situation really is. His allies plead for a plan, and you can see their worry written all over their faces. Out of the shadows, monstrous beasts explode forward, and they're slammed into a full defensive fight. A storm of blazing projectiles detonates right in their faces. One of the warriors finds herself boxed in as a raging storm of summoned weapons crashes in from every side. The elf strategist clocks the truth. Their enemy is unleashing a deadly summonings technique that traps their foes into immortality. The enslaved skeleton finally bears the whole truth if they want out. They've got one brutal choice: either kill the one controlling him or end him themselves. He pushes them to track Ninent and his master, because if they learn how he died, the summoned spirits won't keep coming. The Beast King's girl refuses to lift a finger against the very savior who saved her. But the elf steps forward anyway, and you can practically feel her decision locking in. She shuts him down cold, treating him like nothing more than a disposable death spirit. In one lightning-fast strike, she obliterates his body into nothing. The rest of them stare in terror, stunned and whispering, "What kind of monster goes that ruthless?" She speaks in a calm voice, then drops the truth: you can't kill a death spirit just by smashing its body. While the undead horde keeps pressing in, the priestess clenches her resolve and summons holy magic to slam the spirit shut and seal it away. The party clenched their teeth and braced for the endless tide of monsters crashing toward them. The demonic army, bat-filled skies looming above, locks eyes with them, like it's ready to crush them. The priestess steps forward and declares she'll unleash her area magic, no limits, no breaks. She casts a high-level spell and calls forth two brutal holy spirits, drags in the score-obsessed Crestwave Academy, and then bam, introduces the character First Iron Gate Reform School. A wild burst of sacred light explodes across the battlefield, swallowing everything in its glow. The darkness-dwelling creatures snap back in terror, shrieking as agony rips through them. In the middle of all that chaos, Sonya gets blindsided while her friends are screaming a warning at the top of their lungs. A hulking monster lunges forward, and Kanan slams herself between it and Sonya, shielding her with everything she's got. Kanan eats the attack's full, brutal hit head-on. Sonya's eyes go wide as she gapes at the three-headed hound that just tore up her comrade, and the damage looks brutal proof of the sacrifice she made. Suddenly, that massive beast gets violently hurled backward, like some unseen power just yanked the whole world out from under it. Kanan blurts out an apology for her magic fizzling out, but her friend shoots back, reassuring her. Sonia finally snaps out of her trance, totally clueless about what just happened, while her companions stare at her weird behavior like it makes no sense. In the far distance, they spot the real enemy crammed onto countless spikes, the work of their own leader. The whole crew stares in shock as that sudden intervention blows everything wide open. The hero sits in the middle of the wreckage, face set in pure grim determination. His slime buddy fires up its detection powers and zeroes in on his master's location. It tracks him down by a battered archway where a terrifying lich stands watch. The slime snaps out in panic, calling to its master like something's gone terribly wrong. The whole party snaps their heads around because their leader is suddenly in grave danger. A monstrous creature has seized him and trapped him tight in its clutches. After tearing through the chaos, his allies lock onto their target straight ahead. They finally spot their master, and before their eyes, a grotesque cloud of darkness is gnawing his arm to pieces. Kanan shouts his name like a warning bell, already gearing up to jump in at once. She apologizes first, then braces herself and unleashes her attack like a storm coming. But the hero doesn't need anyone. He unleashes destruction magic and wipes that parasitic thing out himself. From far away, the enemy spits taunts at him, daring him to prove he can still fight with one arm missing. His arm snaps back to life in seconds, and the whole crowd goes silent as he waves them off like, "Don't worry." He snaps shut the gap in the blink of an eye, launching himself forward in a deadly lunge. But the fire javelin slams in and does nothing at all, because the demon shrugs off both physical and magical attacks like they're nothing. Now he finally gets it why his allies warned him that this enemy wasn't just tough, it was unbeatable. The rest of his party gets pinned down, and they're warned that their physical attacks won't do a thing. His main weapons failed him on the spot, and the protagonist has to scramble for a whole new way forward. He locks onto the one vital truth light magic is the ultimate weapon, and it's the Ghost Tribe's worst nightmare. With fresh fire in her eyes, Kanan swears a solemn vow. She won't let anyone important to her meet death. Then she manifests a blade of pure, blinding light. She's poised to unleash violence, and her brand new weapon gleams like it's calling her next strike. Her determination was ironclad, unbreakable, and absolute. She steps beside him at the front line, ready to go all in for their final showdown. An ancient demon glares down at them, totally unmoved. It suddenly erupts into this blinding flash of light. Together, they get ready to unleash one unstoppable, combined blast. The demon throws its head back and declares, "Our fight is finally finished." Kanan's sword detonates with a cataclysmic burst of raw energy. The enemy's body gets vaporized, but that's just the bait. The protagonist grabs his allies and warns, "It's coming back, it will resurrect." The moment the creature reforms, he's already poised to smash it again. He sweeps the ruined chamber with his eyes, holding his breath, ready for his enemy to burst back into the fight. BZ finally confirms their worst fears. The enemy fused with the darkness and slipped right out. Then another ally shows up, checks everyone over, and confirms she's totally unharmed, just relieved they're all safe. Suddenly, Kanan crumples to the ground and a storm of system messages bursts onto the screen. She assures them, "I'm not in trouble, I'm just wiped out from the brutal energy drain of my light magic." Then bam, a new notification hits, and she freezes dead in her tracks. She's just learned space magic. The whole crew is left speechless. This kind of skill pickup is unheard of. The protagonist instantly sees just how insanely powerful that skill is for turning the whole game. From the darkness, the escaped enemy keeps them in his sights. It wrestles with the impossible sight of a light magic user stepping into the world. Then the focus snaps to another member of the party. The ancient being locks onto the girl like it finally remembers her. Like there's a buried connection nobody's seen yet. Later on, the whole group digs into a hard-earned meal and gets their strength roaring back. The protagonist kneels over the wreck of their other foe, just a trembling blob of black mist, still crawling with life. He breaks it down for them. This is what happened to the dark shaman they tangled with earlier. Now he's got to choose what happens to that beaten, still breathing creature. He finally slipped into a barren wasteland, and then he turns to ask, "All right, what's the next move?" His companion shoots back that the new destination is locked in and ready to go. They finally reach the Beastfolk Kingdom's capital, a huge living camp that's now throwing open its gates and taking in refugees from human lands. He lays it all out. He's on a mission to track down the ancient dwarf, Dyke. He lifts the cursed blade and fires the question, Can dwarven blacksmithing actually fix this thing? The dwarf agrees to pore over the mysterious metal all night, but he immediately warns him not to go hunting for miracles. The conversation snaps straight to the refugee crisis, and when trade gets cut off from the human lands, supplies hit dangerously low levels. To help them survive, the protagonist launches a soup kitchen and serves the displaced crowd one hungry bowl at a time. He and his allies waste no time serving piping hot food to the desperate refugees right away. The whole party watches in awe as those starving people finally get served a real meal at last. He's getting ready to ask Seidel to spread food across every country, but a young girl cuts in pointing out he hasn't eaten a single bite himself. One harmless offer of stew rips open a dark, brutal memory in his head. He remembers the day Ayumu was set to eat stew only for it to spoil before she could take a single bite. After hearing the grim report from his skeletal right-hand man, he realizes the giants and demons have vanished. But Israfel has already seized key figures from 13 different nations. They're saying the enemy leader is sealed inside a massive temple deep in the raid-crewed empire. Temple sealed behind an ancient barrier, he snarls out a grim command. If any of the old breeds crawl out, they don't get to live. He watches Ali's plan roll forward like clockwork, but Kanan's magic is getting drained hard. Kanan steps in, and the moment she's close, you can tell she's worried sick about the Demon Lord and the whole hero summoning plan. She reveals the Demon Lord's appearance was a total fabrication, just a lure to get humans to summon heroes and then seize control of the world. He corners her for answers, demanding to know why she's so certain that a specific person is the Demon Lord. She slams the door on that idea with a hard, instant denial. She drops a jaw-shattering truth. Tamez was one of the warriors who wiped out the original Demon Lord. 4,000 years back, humans called heroes into the chaos, begging them to end the Demon Lord right through the battle of gods, with the fate of Ketobel Pass hanging in the balance. Another companion snaps that demons can't possibly summon a new Demon Lord. She claims she personally torched their summoning facilities to prove it. The protagonist demands proof because he refuses to believe there isn't some twisted scheme lurking behind the scenes. Antia's face tightens with worry, but the others stand tall, sure they've nailed it. They finally confirmed it. Kobaru's flame didn't just burn the place down, it annihilated the tech to summon a Demon Lord, wiping the whole territory clean. An onlooker is left scratching their head, stunned that Kanan can wield light magic because that power is supposed to belong only to heroes. He snaps to the conclusion that the only reason her power is so strong is Timus. A system alert blasts onto the screen. Timus's blessing seal is finally undone, and that ordinary skill mutates into something that can forge a god. The dwarf storms back, slams his verdict on the sword, and leaves no room for doubt. He flat out declares it hopeless to fix this blade is a dead thing and nothing their tech can touch it. Then he points to only one possibility, the ancient ghost tribe, the only ones who can raise and break that curse. Cornered and out of options, Timus unleashes her one-of-a-kind power, Feast of the God. Out of nowhere, the protagonist gets hit with a brand new individual skill, shape shifting into different forms. Without wasting a second, he snaps the sword's black mist back to its true form, knowing full well the pain is about to hit him like a truck. He steels himself for the storm of backlash. A blinding flash erupts, and right in that moment, he remembers the brutal catch. Using the skill wipes out one of his senses for a whole day. Power crashes through him like a live wire, and it hammers his body with brutal, mind-splitting pain. Bubbles churn up around him as his consciousness crawls back to life. He drops into the abyss, and his mind scrambles like crazy to piece together what just happened. His final memory was him scrambling to unleash the Feast of the Gods, trying to smash the black mist back into nothing. Suddenly, he's dropped onto a path inside a strange, sun-drenched forest. He stares at his hands, and a shock slams through him. Those aren't his hands at all. Right when he tries to even process it, a bunch of figures rush in, and one of them snaps, "Sensei," begging him for guidance. To his absolute shock, his own mouth shoots off words and agrees like his body just took over without asking him. The words burst out of his mouth on their own, like they had hijacked his will. He's trapped in his own head, internally screaming, as the group stares on and he can't make sense of what's happening. Now he's trapped an unwilling spectator, stuck in a brand new body in a world that feels completely alien. His father taught swordsmanship for a living, and he was tightly woven into the knight's world. He followed his father's footsteps and grabbed an instructor's role at a young age, molding the kingdom's finest into champions. But once his students started growing up and getting shipped off on missions, they vanished one after another. Soon his own disciples got nailed for rebellion, and he had no choice but to swallow the blame for everything. It was officially called a resignation for a training trip, but everyone knew it was really an exile. He just knew they'd never betray the kingdom, and then he turned on himself, thinking the sword lessons he gave them were the reason they'd never be strong enough. He dragged that crushing guilt behind him. Sure, his own failure was what sealed their fate in the ground. Right now, he's reached his breaking point. Level 100 is as far as he can go, and he can't push past it. He frets over how to smash through this barrier, stuck on the one missing piece that'll finally crack it open. He hunted down a lonely, abandoned spot, ready to stare down a monstrous beast. Wounded to the bone and drained to the core, he braces himself for the final moment, accepting this spot as the perfect place to die. Suddenly, a storm of shadowy spikes rockets straight toward him. The strike lands clean, and in an instant, he's left with brutal wounds gasping and coughing up blood. From the shadows, a terrifying force of the undead tribe steps into the light and reveals itself. The creature tempts him with power and a brand new life, but only if he swears to become its familiar. It forces him to swear eternal loyalty and treat it like his master, bowing and worshiping it with his whole heart. Even with fatal injuries tearing through him, he still defiantly refuses to give up. He declares, loud and unshakable, that his soul and his sword are bound to his country and nobody's going to stain them. The undead lord lets out a sinister laugh, and somehow his next words land with a weirdly familiar rhythm. It hunts him with a chilling vision, pressing him to face the question, were those his lost disciples? The creature admits it tasted their pure souls and says they were so insanely delicious that it couldn't stop after devouring them. He's screaming with pure rage when the truth hits. His face is inches away from the very person who murdered his student. The undead lord's body starts to twist and change, surging with overwhelming power like it's about to break reality. It mocks his defiance and flat out challenges whether he's got any chance at all. The being shrugs him off like he's just a helpless human kid. No chance in hell of standing up to it. Then another voice cuts in, straight up asking, is this just another drop item? The protagonist looks reborn, thrusting forward with a razor-cold stare and an ironclad promise. Consciousness snaps back, yanked out of a foggy void like a nightmare finally blinking out. The protagonist snaps awake on a bed, and the whole chaos from just moments ago feels like it happened in a wild dream. He starts to wonder if his whole life was just a nightmare he can't wake from. Once his vision finally snaps into focus, he realizes the Feast of the Gods penalty is gone after an entire brutal day. He snaps his head around, shocked to see a young woman lying in the bed beside him. She freaks out, shrieking when she realizes his vision is bad. He shoots a hard question at her why she's here, and she answers that she never thought he'd bounce back this fast. A thunderous crash outside snaps his focus. Sonya gets tossed to the ground mid-training. The Beast Girl hammers the dirt with pure, furious vexation. He stays cool as ice and tells her straight up she's got a long road ahead of her. Out of nowhere, a hooded stranger steps in and greets him like they've been destined, like the one true soulmate. A status window flashes and calls him Black Mist, the battle god's blade reaching an insane level 600. The protagonist freezes, speechless, like the world just got punched. From across the room, the girl jolts with pure shock at the legendary name. The man realizes that when a weapon turns into a person, it's almost always a gorgeous woman, but this time it's just him. He finally realizes it's his sword rebuilt into its original human form, and the dream wasn't random at all. It was a sneak peek into his blade's past. Black Mist nods and drops the real truth. This skill lets them pass memories and thoughts to others. He admits that after eons as a sword, his human memories have gone hazy. But the moment he sees Shamanal's past, his control shatters. The protagonist swats it away and locks in on their victory, while the shadow of an old enemy's scheme creeps closer. Black Mist slams down the moment training starts now and warns that if he wants his revenge, he better level up into something far stronger. Meanwhile, inside a glittering mansion, a desperate man finds himself trapped with no way out. His calls thundered through the empty halls, only getting answered by his subordinate's echo. He snaps into panic at his desk when he realizes he can't reach the other countries and none of his people are coming back. He's terrified for his missing subordinates, but he knows stepping outside the barrier is basically a death sentence. The man spits curses at Sukuru, convinced every single bad thing in his life started the second he crossed paths with that boy. He's also shaken by Shamanil's eerie presence and furious that a fresh wave of ancient demons is tearing through his territory. No reports, no soldiers, just him staring at an empty world, feeling totally powerless, trapped as he tries to face the one he has to answer to. He slams his fist down hard, rage and despair swallowing him whole. Two swordsmen slam into each other, unleashing a brutal, non-stop flurry of strikes. Inside a nearby estate, the party fires up the dinner plans while all eyes stay locked on the duel. Their blades crash together in a blur of pure speed, proving just how deadly and perfectly honed their skill really is. Sparks burst and fly as the relentless attack keeps hammering non-stop. The fighters crash their weapons together, and for a heartbeat, neither one can break the stalemate pure equal force, locked tightly. Even though he's ranked higher, the protagonist is totally baffled because their powers line up perfectly, like he's battling his own reflection. He can't help but wonder, does that sentient black mist sword reflect his own status too? His weapon snarls at him for his sloppy technique, demanding he lock in and fight like he means it. Right in the middle of brutal training, a call blasts through telling them the meal is ready, and everything grinds to a sudden stop. The hero is practically bursting with joy, shouting that eating is the greatest pleasure ever, and laughing that he was robbed of that joy once, back when he was just a sword. A jaw-dropping feast laid itself out before them, every dish copied straight from his homeworld. His companions shovel in like they're starving, already hollering for their second helping. He scans the party, and he clocks it instantly. One of them dodged their onions like it was no big deal. The story cuts to a war council. Leaders huddle and whisper that this rotten old commander is losing control because the people under his command are finally starting to disobey him. His ally spills their master plan when the time comes. They'll officially announce the end of human supremacy. The Lich lays out the plan. He'll bind all the other races to his side by turning the raid into a chilling warning for the crude empire. The woman lays it out flat. His real mission is revenge, and she shuts down the idea that he's trying to spark a war between the major powers. She tells him the big shots behind the summoning are already gone. There's nothing left but the one target they came for. He just smirks back, totally buying her sharp take on the situation. The elf queen Antea gets pulled into broker peace, but the moment the offer lands, her lack of excitement is painfully obvious. She tells them, if this ancient-type human dies, another will be born right on cue, and when it all erupts, it's going to be you stuck holding the chaos. Just like they're bound to protect their people, she's got her own oath carved into her soul to guard her kind at any cost. The protagonist spills the plan, use Kanan's space-time magic to pin down the ancient type, then seize control of the entire human tribe. They admit that word control sounds dark, but they still believe we can steer humanity toward a brighter future. One of his companions erupts in rage and vows that insulting her master is unforgivable, no matter who dares to say it. The elf queen totally reads the room because the loyalty burning in her people is downright fierce. With a heavy sigh, Antea finally gives in and agrees to cooperate, because protecting her people means she has no real choice left. The Lich bears his next worry. Those summoned heroes are done waiting, and they're plotting to storm the raid crude empire on their own. They realize this move could blow everything up because if the hero steps wrong, their main target will feel it instantly. One of the women fires back, asking if they're talking about Kuju, and the others lean in too. Then she fires off a question about what they're doing right now. A warrior slams into the room, barking that he's here while another hero shouts for his partner to back off. The bespectacled man fights like his life depends on it, but a crushing force barrels in, pinning him down. A violent blast detonates out of nowhere, and it rockets him through the air like he weighs nothing. Once the enemy goes down, the heroes erupt in cheers, but the guy spots it instantly. His level has shot up to 170, and it keeps climbing. His female companion clocks what's happening and calls it a limit break, an ability only real heroes are allowed to wield. Riding the high of their win, the summoned heroes claim the kingdom like it's theirs, power flooding their minds until corruption takes over. Later on, Kujo snaps away, coldly dodging the question of when they're going to hit the next empire. The woman with the glasses sits alone, shaking hard, trying to force herself to believe she didn't make the wrong call. A bone-chilling scream rips through the calm and jolts every student who was gathered there. A dark-haired girl steps into the doorway, and the others go cold because they instantly recognize Ichinose, the one they were sure was gone for good. Then she drops this chilling question on them. Can anyone who died with regret ever really find peace? Kujo just shrugs her dramatic comeback off with a cold, cutting scoff. The hero insists he lived because of his foresight, but Ichinose shuts him down hard, flat out denying every word of his story. Kujo snaps back in full fury, screaming that they almost died and that it was only Miki and Sukuru who dragged them to safety. He admits she's right, then instantly flips the script, pinning the kingdom's suffering on her shoulders like it's her fault. Each one fires a sharp rebuke at him, calling out how he dared to preach justice after he hid behind everyone during the real fight. A gigantic skeletal specter erupts behind her, looming so silent and brutal it dares Kuzu to doubt her own beliefs. Right then, a guard shouts that the hostages are finally out of their cages and help is rushing to them. The ex-hero stumbled back, horror slamming into him as that deadly apparition loomed in front of his eyes. A hooded stranger strides forward, shuts down a terrified student on the spot, and demands his full attention. He gives them 3 terrifying options: drop dead right where they stand, crawl back to their original world, or stay behind and live. The student bursts into panic, begging to be sent back home right now. Anything to get away from that endless war. The cloaked man throws an open invitation to anyone else who wants to get out. Kujo smirks and promises he's staying right here because in this world, he finally has the freedom he's been craving. The protagonist leans in and tells him, "Give it everything you've got." Then he slaps his hand onto Kuzu's shoulder and fires off an unknown skill, like something dangerous just woke up. In the blink of an eye, Kujo and everyone who refused to leave are yanked of their powers and reduced to just level 6 villagers. The protagonist and his party whip around and march out, leaving those powerless heroes stranded in the dust. In a desperate shout, Kuzu hurls a plea at Ichinose, trading shocking intel about a comrade for help. He swears he saw their friend get snatched away by a demon right in front of him. He tries to squeeze the truth out of her, pulling the saint aside and asking if she really wants to ditch the one who saved her. Ichino keeps her voice steady and tells him not to panic. She's got other ways to track him down. She locks eyes with him and tells him straight up she's no saint, just a normal person like him. She leans in and demands he keeps their conversation locked away from everyone else. Later, the protagonist stands beside the shrine maiden and tells her straight to her face that the old heroes are finally gone. He snaps that they've thrown a wrench in his plans, then quickly apologizes for the sudden detour. He can't stop wondering if his choices will finally earn peace for the dead, but deep down, he admits the real spark driving him is his own revenge. The shrine maiden leans in and promises him straight up that her full support is right there with him on his quest. He's locked up with his comrades, every weapon stripped away, and escape feels like a dead dream for good. With everyone else out of options, he's the last one still able to go berserk, so he can't help but wonder, can he really hold the line and protect them all by himself? A sharp noise rips him out of his thoughts. He cranes his neck out of the pit, and there it is, a terrifying undead monster looming right over the bars of his cell. Back in the city, his companions stare in terror as one of their own suddenly disappears. Only a nasty scorch mark is left behind. Elsewhere, a war council slams together over one terrifying truth. The feud between the giants and demons is exploding out of control. The protagonist finally reports success, but he can't hide the fact that the negotiations with the beast folk and dwarves nearly broke him. In the capital, political bombs are about to go off as everyone argues over the wild accomplishments of a man named Israfel. A speaker blasts the news 14 nations are teaming up to crush the human supremacy policies of the Raid Crude Empire. The crowd erupts for justice, chanting for Temes, the one who caused the devastation, to finally be held accountable. This whole movement is being fired up as payback for the horrors the old regime's supremacist war unleashed. Inside the royal palace, the emperor's advisors lean in and shout that Temis is in deadly danger. Others insist Temis is still healing from his wounds, and that nobody should dare to interrupt him. The emperor's minister narrows his eyes and lays out a blunt challenge, demanding to know exactly who he is. Just as he starts his accusation, someone hits him hard from behind. No warning, no mercy. The king on the throne spits out, ice cold, that it's a damn shame they had to drag the truth into the light. A terrified guard barrels into the inner chamber, shouting that the undead have seized the emperor's body and they're swapping out the royal guard, one by one. The knights posted by that door grin and swear that nobody, not a single soul, will ever slip past them. Out of nowhere, the messenger gets cut down and the guards tear the mask off, revealing they've sworn themselves to a brand new master. Deep inside, old man Timus feels the chaos crashing in and clutches a pouch with shaking, desperate hands. He throws himself at the mercy of power, and then boom, the dark silhouette of a man steps into view in the doorway. The massive doors burst wide open, and the protagonist steps through, surrounded on both sides by his unstoppable allies. He hops over the fallen guards and blasts out, announcing his return. After that brutal, back-breaking journey, he's not letting his target slip away again. He strides forward with ice-cold intent, swearing he'll end the old man's life right here, right now. The Grand Hall sits deathly quiet. Then it clicks. Every big shot has been swapped out for doppelgangers, and that means his real target is gone, unreachable. His thoughts slam back to the very first moment, back to the day the hero was summoned. He can still see the nobles' faces in his mind, every single one who stood there for the ritual. Ever since he landed in this world, his dignity got crushed again and again, and his heart kept getting stomped into the dirt. But at last, all that pain was about to be wiped out for good. One of his companions leans in and demands, "Is this really the end?" As a world ruled by the human race is left to fend for itself. His party members stare at him, fear creeping in as they feel just how deadly serious his plan is. He makes it crystal clear he's not some righteous hero here to fix the world's problems. Revenge is all he wants, and then boom, an explosion in the distance lights the fuse on his whole plan. Meanwhile, the Elf Queen rips into action, ordering her people to smash every summoning facility and erase every single record. While digging through the archives, one elf gets rocked by a sudden blast that snaps his focus instantly. Across the whole city, people lift their heads as thick smoke and roaring flames choke the air above the royal district. The attack rips through everything. One colossal tower buckles and collapses as it shudders under sheer impact. In a magically sealed chamber, an old man leans in, staring toward the chaos, and he can't stop wondering what or who is causing all this commotion. A brutal knock slams his door, and he jolts like he's been caught off guard. He barks that they step inside and spill every detail about what's going on out there. Everything, start to finish. The door swings open and a nightmare undead staggers into view, its flesh half rotted away. The old man's blood runs cold as he screams in terror, because he finally recognizes the monster standing right in front of him. The undead rockets forward in a blur, claws snapping into place like they're about to tear straight through. In the blink of an eye, the man gets ripped to shreds. As the undead fades away, the real target snaps to it. Somebody slipped into his territory without permission. Panic slams into him as he realizes his ancient type barrier should be able to shrug off everyone unless the one person who can break it is another of his kind. A crushing presence closes in as a voice snaps, demanding he make his next move. Old man Timus crumples to his knees, pleading for mercy while swearing he'll obey every command without ever wavering. From across the distance, the protagonist smirks at how easily his foe spirals into panic over the loss of just one doppelganger. Dark energy swirls together in the palm of his hand. He leans in close, telling the terrified old man this is only the start. Timus can only lock eyes and freeze his face is a full-blown mask of terror.